Chapter 46-58. Did Ananda explain everything clearly? The Mahavirakana revered Buddha asked. Yes. Xiaohua nodded. This matter started by me, and it will also end by me. All the karma in this world will end today. Although it's your fate, it's also my fault. As Mahavirakana revered Buddha waved his hand, layers upon layers of Buddha's light flashed. Images appeared in the Buddha's light. They were the scenes after Tuo Chao left the fishing village with Chuanzang. A few years ago, the souls of a man and a woman flew out of the 6 paths of reincarnation and were born in the Qin family. After the woman was born, she was the little girl that Xiaohua saw in the Qin family. When Xiaohua saw this, he naturally understood that this was the Mahavirakana world revered one using Buddhism sect's supernatural power to protect Mao Chao and the Qin family. Although Xiaohua did not recognize the man and woman, he clearly knew that these were the souls of Mao Chao's parents. When Mao Chao was young, he did not have the chance to enjoy the happiness of a family reunion. When he was old, he was reborn with his parents and continued the family reunion. Amitabha. Xiaohua nodded. Revered one, it's not too late to mend the pen. It's too late. All the compensation can't compare to the previous pain. The Mahavirakana revered Buddha shook his head. Xiaohua smiled. Revered one, you didn't come here today to tell me this, right? This is one of them. The Mahavirakana revered Buddha shook his head. Then, he activated his ability, and a hall filled with Buddha lights appeared. In this hall, the Dipankara archaic Buddha revered Buddha, the Mahavirakana revered Buddha, and the Maitreya Buddha revered Buddha were sitting cross-legged on the 9 Buddha lotus. In front of the 3 Buddha lords, the Namo Great Wisdom Manjushri Bodhisattva, the Namo Great Compassion Manjushri Bodhisattva, and the Namo Virtuous Samantabhadra Bodhisattva were also standing. However, as the Buddha lights flashed, a monkey in a monk's robe was seen holding an iron rod in his hand. He hit the head of a 6-eared macaque, and the 6-eared macaque died on the spot. Seeing this, Xiaohua frowned. Revered one, what's the meaning of this? Could it be that you want me to see Yuan Tong Tian being killed again? Amitabha. The Mahavirakana revered Buddha chanted. Can't the Venerable see it? In an instant, Xiaohua suddenly realized that he had never been to the Laying Temple, but if this Laying Temple was the Laying Temple of the 3 continents, then when Ananda killed Yuan Tong Tian, how could the Laying Temple have Nanwa Great Merciful Guanyin Bodhisattva? If Maitreya Buddha World Honored One was present, how could Maitreya Buddha World Honored One let Ananda run amok? Xiaohua said in astonishment, disciple understands. Revered one of the world, could it be that this is also karma? Sigh, that's right. Mahavirakana revered Buddha sighed and said helplessly, that day, the 6-eared macaque reincarnated by Ananda actually committed a crime in front of me. It really made me furious. However, because I changed, I didn't notice it at the time. Later, when I checked the karma, I realized Ananda was originally a human. He entered the cycle of reincarnation and was reincarnated as a 6-eared macaque. That was why he inherited the 6-eared macaque's karma. His killing of Yuan Tong Tian was an instinct. It could also be said that it was the result of the 6-eared macaque's physical body. It might not have been his original intention. Xiaohua was dumbfounded. He smiled bitterly and said, Revered one of the world, this kind of karma. Isn't it too complicated? Unfortunately, Mahavirakana revered Buddha didn't answer Xiaohua. Instead, he said, there's another thing. As he spoke, Mahavirakana revered Buddha waved his hand again. Yuan Tongtian's corpse appeared, and the 5-colored crystal was also taken out. Xiaohua's eyes lit up. He raised his hand to take the crystal. However, he thought for a while and relaxed his hand. He said, "Revered one of the world, I believe you have already heard what disciple said to Ananda earlier. Disciple has just attained the Bodhisattva Buddha fruit. I'm afraid it's not good for me to interfere with the cycle of reincarnation. Moreover, I'm too soft-hearted. I can't restrain Yuan Tong Tian very well. Why don't we leave this matter to you?" Amitabha. Mahavirakana revered Buddha also thought for a while and nodded. "Leave this matter to me. The karma of this life is temporarily like this. In the next life, we'll do it again and return the karma to this fire ape." As he spoke, Mahavirakana revered Buddha looked at the fire ape's soul inside the five-colored crystal and said, "I believe that after being nourished by the heaven-mending stone, the fire energy of this flame will slowly subside, right? I also hope that the Thunder Temple's Buddhist voice can eliminate the fire ape's evil energy. Since I've troubled you, then disciple will also add flowers to brocade." Seeing this, Xiaohua raised his hand and summoned Yuan Tongtian's corpse in front of him. With a point of his finger, the sun-moon corona on the corpse appeared. Xiaohua's hands formed seals again. Where the crystal light landed, the sun-moon corona turned into a golden hoop. Xiaohua kept Yuan Tongtian's corpse, but gave the golden hoop to Mahavirakana revered Buddha. He said, "This thing can be used as a tight hoop. If his fire nature is still not extinguished in the next life, use this thing to subdue him." Amitabha. Mahavirakana revered Buddha took the golden hoop and nodded. "I hope they have a happy ending in the next life. Let's completely end this karma." End. Xiaohua smiled bitterly. He couldn't help but curse in his heart. Seeing that the six-eared macaque's matter had been settled, Xiaohua looked at Mahavirakana revered Buddha and asked, "Amitabha, the timing of your tribulation is really not right. The alien strange insects have already started to destroy the world. You still have to lead the Thunder Temple to resist the strange insects. Amitabha, Immortal Emperor Go-Chin has already issued a decree in the Lingyun Side Hall, inviting the supreme experts of the 3 continents, 3 rivers, and 4 seas to participate in the Jade Pool gathering 20 days later." Mahavirakana revered Buddha put his palms together and said, "Bodhisattva, let's talk about it when you're there." "Talk about it?" Seeing that Mahavirakana revered Buddha didn't care, Xiaohua was shocked. He hurriedly reminded him, "Revered Buddha, that strange insect is really powerful. Revered Buddha, please don't let your guard down. The warning signs of annihilation have already explained everything." "Yes, I know." Mahavirakana revered Buddha nodded. "I have already asked Dipankara Archaic Buddha to prepare for battle." Revered Buddha. Hearing Mahavirakana revered Buddha's words, Xiaohua's heart unknowingly fell into an ice cellar. He earnestly advised him again, "Disciple really has to remind revered Buddha again. This time, the strange insect is really powerful. Disciple has already encountered it before. Then, Xiaohua recounted the bitter battle he experienced in the Void and the Dragon Island. Mahavirakana revered Buddha was calm. He smiled and asked, "What was your cultivation at that time?" "This." Xiaohua was at a loss for words. After a while, he replied, "Disciple was only around the 5th grade of essence force at that time." But Mahavirakana revered Buddha didn't interrupt Xiaohua's words. However, after Xiaohua said, "But," he couldn't say anything else. After a while, Mahavirakana revered Buddha smiled and said, "Bodhisattva, after hearing your words, I thought of a story." Xiaohua was stunned and said curiously, "Revered Buddha, please speak. Have you seen the white elephant of Samantabhadra Bodhisattva of the Namo Great Path?" Mahavirakana revered Buddha asked. Xiaohua shook his head, "Disciple hasn't seen it before." "Yes." Mahavirakana revered Buddha said again, "There are also elephants in the secular world. However, they are grayish-yellow in color. This gray elephant is very powerful. In the Pure Land, it is a powerful creature. It is comparable to the dragon race. People often use the dragon elephant's power to describe it. However, this gray elephant's temperament is very docile. If a small gray elephant is tied to a big tree with a thin rope, the small gray elephant will definitely struggle. However, at that time, the small gray elephant's strength is very small. It will definitely not be able to break free from the rope and the big tree. When the small gray elephant grows into a big gray elephant, its strength is enough to overturn the big tree. However, it won't break free from the thin rope. Because it always thinks that it can't break free from the thin rope. It doesn't know that it has already grown up. Back then, Bodhisattva was only at the 5th grade of essence force. He had to use all his strength to kill the strange insect. Therefore, he felt that the strange insect was very powerful. Now, Bodhisattva has cultivated to the highest realm in such a short time. I'm afraid that some of you haven't reached the supreme realm yet, right? Sigh. Revered one of the world. Xiao Hua smiled bitterly. I'm not a small gray elephant. That strange insect is also not a thin rope. I've only met 1 or 2 strange insects and they are already so powerful. In the eye of the West Sea, I've seen hundreds of millions of them. So what if there are hundreds of millions of them? At this point, Mahavirakana, revered one of the world, simply answered, the 3 continents have the laws of heaven and earth. Those strange insects can't surpass the 9th grade of essence force. Since they can't surpass the 9th grade of essence force, the supreme experts of Buddhism, Confucianism, Taoism, and demon sects will definitely have the ability to kill them. Moreover, you've been to the 1,000 demons sacred realm. How many demons are there? How many great sages are there? It's impossible that all of these strange insects are at the 9th grade of essence force. Among the hundreds of millions of strange insects, it's already not bad that there are thousands of 9th grade essence force. Also, the so-called apocalyptic warning is just a reminder. It's not like the 3 continents didn't experience it before. What about now? The 3 continents are still the 3 continents. The human race is still the human race. The demon race is still entrenched in the 1,000 demons sacred realm. Of course, it's not wrong for you to be careful. Why would Immortal Emperor Go-Chin urgently send an imperial edict to invite us to the Lingyun Side Palace? Remember, you must go. Otherwise, the 4 great clans won't go. Our human race will still be in chaos. All right. Mahavirakana, revered one of the world, said so much that Xiao Hua couldn't refute. He could only helplessly say, disciple respectfully sends off the revered one of the world. Mahavirakana, revered one of the world's, palms clasped together and bid farewell. Then, he stepped into the void and disappeared. Damn it! Xiao Hua cursed and said, the apocalyptic warning is already so obvious. Why aren't they alert yet? Darling Xiao. Xan said softly, those strange insects. Are they really that powerful? I hope that by this time, you can leave a message in the book review and comment section. Thank you. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe, vote, donate, and thank you for all your support. Chapter 4659. How could it not be powerful? Xiao Hua smiled bitterly. If it wasn't powerful, how could I have? When he spoke up to hear, Xiao Hua came to a sudden realization, and he said with extreme embarrassment and rage, damn it. Gao-Chin old man and the 4 great clans didn't care about these strange insects at all. They only stopped because they were afraid of me. They only saw the strange insects as a stepping stone. Hearing Xiao Hua call Immortal Emperor Gao-Chin old man Gao-Chin, Xan was a little embarrassed, but she understood Xiaohua's feelings. She said in a low voice, "There are still 20 days left, you can go to the Jade Lake and talk to them." Sigh, if words can be spoken clearly, why would there be a need for blood? Xiaohua sighed, even someone as strong as Virokana didn't care, how could immortal Emperor Gaochen care? Yes, His Majesty cares about you. He cares about the Fortune Gate. Axian nodded, if it wasn't for the rise of your Tao Gate, His Majesty would have attacked the 4 great clans in the Longevity Town, and there wouldn't be a second outcome. Even if the strange insects appeared, only His Majesty cares about you. He is afraid that the Immortal Palace and the 4 great clans will both suffer losses, and you will be the fisherman who reaps the benefits. This was originally his own idea. Xiaohua sneered, he really knows how to judge others by his own standards. On the way to River Town, Xiaohua had explained everything to Axian. Axian naturally knew about the battle between the Fortune Gate and the 4 big families at Dawn and Dusk Cliff. Thinking about Xiaohua's infatuation, Axian was also moved. She took the initiative to hold Xiaohua's hand and said, "Xiaohua, I really like how you treat me." In the hidden immortal continent, other than the legend of the gentle sword, there must be another story of Daoist Xiao shocking the entire Xing Han Empire to save the princess. However, Xiaohua, you and your Fortune Gate rose too quickly, and your Tao Gate's foundation is incomparably weak. It's not that the Immortal Palace, Buddhist sect, and demonic beast race don't want to destroy your Fortune Gate, it's just that they haven't made a move yet, and you already have the same strength as them. If they want to destroy your Fortune Gate, they will suffer heavy losses. Therefore, they hadn't thought about how to lay out the plan and how to make a move. Especially now that the 4 great families are plotting a rebellion, and the sky-bearing palace is starting to show its prowess, they don't have the energy to consider all these things at the same time. Once they reach a compromise, your Fortune Gate will be in danger. When he spoke up to hear, Axian's eyes spun for a moment before he continued, besides that, just as you said earlier, your disciples are at most at the lower level of the 8th grade of origin energy, whereas you and your good friends have already attained the peak of the 9th grade of origin energy. It's impossible for all of you to wait until your disciples cultivate to the middle level of the 9th grade of origin energy before ascending. For a sect to be able to last for 10,000 years, the distribution of the strength of the disciples should be like a sand dune, wide at the bottom and long at the top. It was impossible for there to be a gap in the middle. The strength distribution of Fortune Gate disciples was like a spindle, extremely unreasonable. The Fortune Gate's current glory depends on your own strength. If you ascend, your Fortune Gate will perish. Without the foundation of the Tao Gate, the Fortune Gate's glorious moment was the beginning of its destruction. Moreover, the more glorious it is, the faster it will be destroyed. Actually, this is the Grand Mist Ancestor's lesson. He was too arrogant in the past, which was why he was suppressed by the Immortal Palace, Buddhist sect, and Great Sage Temple. After he escaped, he kept a low profile. If not for the rise of your Fortune Gate today, he would never have appeared in front of His Majesty. Axian lightly grasped Xiaohua's hand and reminded, his appearance also satisfied the Immortal Palace and Buddhist sect's request. They know that while the Grand Mist Ancestor relies on you, he is also nibbling away at your forces. In this aspect, you are far inferior to the Grand Mist Ancestor. The Immortal Palace and Buddhist sect will definitely support the Grand Mist Ancestor to go against you. Just like how the Immortal Palace wanted to support you to go against the Grand Mist Ancestor. In my opinion, if your Fortune Gate wants to survive in the 3 continents, other than hiding your strength, you need to find a backer. I see that you have a good relationship with the 2 great sages from the Great Sage Temple. Why don't you use the 3 demon territories to move the Fortune Gate to the 1,000 Demons' sacred domain? Moreover, don't you have the title of Dragon Island's Dragon Master? That is also useful. The Thousand Demons Sacred Domain has the Great Sage Temple and the Fortune Gate, the Hidden Immortal Continent has the Immortal Palace, and the Western Paradise has the Thunder Temple. It should be more balanced. Hee. Xiaohua naturally wouldn't tell Axian the secret of the Xinhua continent, but when he heard Axian's plan, he used a finger to scratch Axian's palm. Axian found it itchy and used 3 fingers to scratch at the same time. Although Xiaohua didn't itch, he still pretended to shrink back. Then, he pulled his hand out and pulled Axian into his embrace. Axian hurriedly looked left and right. When he saw that there were only clouds hiding him, he sighed in relief. He leaned his head on Xiaohua's shoulder and closed his eyes, looking like he was enjoying himself. Seeing several light pillars fall on Axian's face like a painting brush, turning into a peerless beauty, Xiaohua smiled and kissed Axian's smooth forehead. Ooh! Axian liked Xiaohua's kiss very much. He opened his mouth slightly and blew on Xiaohua's neck. A fragrant breath came, and Xiaohua saw 2 red lips. Xiaohua couldn't help but feel his heart beat wildly. His lips slid down Axian's eyebrows. No. Axian was slightly anxious. He covered Xiaohua's mouth with a snow-white finger and said in a low voice, "Xiaohua, don't be anxious." I know." Xiaohua took a deep breath and kissed Axian's finger. He raised his head and looked at the clouds in the distance. He smiled and said, "You've planned so much for me. What if there comes a day when my fortune gate goes against the Immortal Palace?" When he said this, a distant memory suddenly rushed into Xiaohua's mind. The sun was setting in the west, and the sky was filled with red clouds. It was a beautiful scene. The misty peak was whistling, the trees were shaking, and clothes were fluttering. Under the gaze of tens of thousands of people, there was a middle-aged man in white with a calm expression. In front of that man was a woman whose face was as pale as paper. Wasn't that sect leader Peng and his wife Yang Rupiying, who stood at the peak of the misty peak? Although Xiaohua didn't see the misty end with his own eyes, this story had been engraved in his heart. Hee. Xiaohua, who was gradually soaked in memories, was suddenly awakened by Axian's laughter. Looking at Axian who didn't cooperate with his mood, Xiaohua said helplessly, "What's so funny? Do you think His Majesty is stupid? As long as you don't ascend, he definitely won't start a war with you. Do you think Master Lightning was bestowed upon you by His Majesty for no reason? With the title of Master Lightning, you can't lead an army to attack the Immortal Palace. Otherwise, you'll be treacherous in offending your superiors." Axian laughed and said, "Moreover, if you ascend, His Majesty will first use me to control your fortune gate and nibble away at your fortune gate. But, will your disciples be convinced by me? This kind of thankless task, I won't do it. Therefore, you don't have to worry. I'll just take care of Fairy Xingyu star-plucking tower. I won't let you down, and I won't let His Majesty down." Hee. That's true. Xiaohua rubbed his nose and said with a bitter smile, "I thought too simply." It wasn't that Xiaohua thought it was simple, but that there was nothing to compare. Of course, Peng and Yang Rupiying's situation was different from Xiaohua and Axian's, and Peng's strength couldn't be compared to Xiaohua's. "Look at your silly face." Axian rolled his eyes at Xiaohua, and said with some resentment and some pride, "I originally wanted to hide you in my heart. But you saved me." "It's fine that you saved me, but you've cultivated to the supreme realm. What do you want me to do? How much longer can I accompany you?" Forget it. Seeing that you've done so much for me, and everyone in the world knows about it, I'll reluctantly guard your reputation for the rest of my life." As he said this, Axian mischievously winked at Xiaohua again. When Axian said this, Xiaohua's heart trembled again. No, Axian was completely right. He saved Axian from the immortal emperor's suppression, but his story with Axian had already spread across the 3 continents. He was already at the peak of the 9th grade of essence energy, and even a normal cultivator would have to undergo tribulation in less than 1,000 years. But what about Axian? Back then, due to her injuries, she was only at the 4th grade of essence energy when she explored the Mystic Water Palace with Xiaohua. Hundreds of years of recuperation, practicing the 5 Qis unifications, and refining the Mystic Origin Water Control Flag had only allowed her to reach the 7th grade of essence energy. As the daughter of the immortal emperor, Axian's lifespan was bound to be very long, and whether he succeeded or not, he would have to leave Axian. From this point of view, he didn't just give Axian happiness, he also gave her a kind of burden and loneliness. Axian, I didn't think so much. Xiaohua said with a sad face, when I heard Baihan say that you were suppressed, I panicked. You mustn't blame me. Stop pretending. Axian smiled and poked Xiaohua's forehead with her white hand. I'm very happy that you treat me like this. You won't be able to find a lover like you anywhere in the world. That's good. Xiaohua smiled and said, it's good that my wife doesn't blame me. Call me Axian. Axian glared at Xiaohua. I'm not your wife, but seeing how you call me your wife so smoothly, it's completely different from the little monk from before. Is there a secret? I do want to have a secret, but the problem is. Xiaohua sighed, can my secret hide from a true scholar? That's true. Axian smiled happily. In this world, there really isn't anyone with discerning eyes like me. Granny Wang, are you selling melons? Xiaohua asked with a smile. Chapter 4660. However, Xiaohua suddenly thought of something and said to Axian, a good friend of mine is visiting. It's not a good time for you to see him. Can you leave for a while? Axian smiled and said, it's fine. It's fine even if you have your own secrets. You have your secrets, and so do I, isn't that right? Axian blinked her eyes mischievously. Xiaohua smiled and said, these secrets are only temporary. You'll know about them in the future. Axian blushed and nodded slightly. Then, Xiaohua shook the Kunlun mirror and temporarily sent Axian into the Xinhua continent. Namo Maitreya, congratulations, Bodhisattva. A lotus-like Buddha light appeared in the distance. As the Buddha light bloomed, Namo Maitreya flew out from it. Upon seeing Xiaohua, he put his palms together and smiled. Xiaohua looked at the Maitreya Buddha and said, what's there to congratulate? You're the Maitreya Buddha, and the Mahavirakana Buddha just left. When I, a Bodhisattva, see you, I have to call you my disciple. What's the point? Also, didn't you think that I could attain the Buddha fruit? I won't hide it from you. The Maitreya Buddha smiled and said, I'm the Maitreya Buddha, and I control the future of Buddhism. Now, all the Buddha lights are in the hands of the Mahavirakana Buddha. Also, even the Dipankara archaic Buddha, the Mahavirakana Buddha, and the Maitreya Buddha are only the appearances of the Buddha. Between heaven and earth, in the hearts of the Buddhas, there are countless Buddha lights. Who knows where the Buddha fruit is? Where does the river of faith flow? Also, you're merciful. The power of faith in the longevity town belongs to you. Not to mention me, even the Mahavirakana Buddha can only envy you. Forget it. This matter has already come to an end. It's useless to talk about it. Xiaohua waved his hand and said, I'm sure the Mahavirakana Buddha already hates me. The longevity town Buddha sect's first golden Buddha statue consecrated, and such a huge mistake happened. Even if the world-honored one wants to hold a grudge, I'm afraid you won't dare to hold a grudge at that time. Moreover, I discovered Yuan Tongtian's matter too late. The Maitreya Buddha put away the smile on his face and did not say much. He only explained the cause of the matter in his heart. Ah! No way! After Xiao Hua heard this, he couldn't help but exclaim, "There's actually such a big dot." Maitreya Buddha nodded and replied, "I'm afraid it can only be bigger." Okay, I understand. Xiao Hua nodded and said, "If you need anything, you can tell I've already sensed it, so I rushed over," the Maitreya Buddha said again. Xiao Hua took out the golden sarira and handed it to the Maitreya Buddha, saying, "This item came from the Star Moon Palace, but I don't understand. Is there a sarira more precious than the sarira of the previous Maitreya Buddha?" "Of course there is." Buddha Maitreya took the golden sarira and looked at it carefully. Then, he put the golden sarira into the light behind his head and explained, "The Buddhist sect cultivates the 9 turns golden body. Even when the 3 Buddha lords are practicing, they can't guarantee that every doppelganger will come out unscathed. Therefore, the more doppelganger one cultivates, the greater the chance of losing one's doppelganger. There are even some extremely rare doppelganger that has just arrived at a certain realm and may die. Who knows which Buddha Lord left this golden sarira behind? However, it seems that the realm where this sarira is located is much higher than the 3 continents. Okay, I'll leave this to you." Xiao Hua took out the Kunlun mirror again and said with a smile, "In addition, this disciple also obtained some secret techniques, so this disciple invites you to enter the jar." Ta! The Maitreya Buddha seemed very happy. He stepped into the light pillar and disappeared. When Xiao Hua put away the Kunlun mirror, the Maitreya Buddha said in Xiao Hua's heart, "I won't talk to you when I leave, so as not to disturb your sweet time with Axian. Xiao Hua was really speechless. He replied snappily, "Leave if you want. If you don't want the Bodhisattva of the exquisite temple to wait, you can just stay here." However, the Namo Maitreya Buddha didn't answer. He naturally couldn't come out for too long. Xiao Hua of the heavenly Tao and the enlightenment that Xiao Hua sent into his mind didn't allow him to speak. Xiao Hua took out the Kunlun mirror and let Axian out. As soon as it landed in the air, Axian said happily, "Darling Xiao, is this your Kunlun wonderland?" "Yes, how is it?" Xiao Hua asked somewhat proudly. "It's really beautiful." Axian took a breath and wrinkled his nose. "Moreover, the air inside is very fresh, the noble qi is also abundant. I even feel that the noble qi of the Confucian cultivator is also very clear, much better than the hidden immortal continent." Right, there's also the scenery. It's much more beautiful than the majority of the places in the hidden immortal continent. Of course, why don't you think about who set up the Kunlun Wonderland?" Xiao Hua raised his head and said very proudly. Yes. Axian clapped his hands and said, "This Kunlun mirror is in your hands, you must be able to personally set up the wonderland inside. Darling Xiao, why don't you let me also refine this Kunlun mirror? I also want to set up a space." However, Axian only said a few words and said with a smile, "Darling Xiao, don't take it seriously. I know that only you can refine the Kunlun mirror, I'm just envious of you." Boom! Axian's words reminded Xiao Hua again. That day at the Dawn and Dusk Cliff, because Xiao Hua couldn't free himself, he gave the Kunlun mirror to the celestial being to collect the Fortune Gate disciples who were fighting with the 4 great clans. Now that he thought about it, wasn't this a big flaw? Even when he was at the Longevity Town, Xiao Hua also gave the Kunlun mirror to the celestial being. The celestial being using the Kunlun mirror was naturally a pretense, just like Xiao Hua. He was just putting the Fortune Gate disciples into the Xinhua continent like they were things, but Others didn't know, and others would definitely think that it was a clone. Xiaohua smiled and answered, the Kunlun mirror is different from other magic tools. It can be activated through simple refining, but the Kunlun Wonderland inside is something I can do. If you want to refine it and collect some things, I can refine it. That's not right. Refining the Kunlun mirror requires the Tao's true essence and techniques. You're a Confucian cultivator, you still can't do it. I remember now. When Xiaohua mentioned refining the Kunlun mirror, Xian's face turned red again, and she exclaimed, His Majesty asked you to comprehend the 9 prefectures' cauldrons array formation. You can't have forgotten, right? Seeing that Xian took the initiative to throw the refining of the Kunlun mirror aside, Xiaohua really admired Xian's purity. He nodded and said, This is related to the happiness of this Xiao's life. How can this Xiao forget? He. When it came to happiness, even though there was no one around, Xian's face turned red, and she whispered, Since you know, why don't you hurry up and comprehend it? There are some secret techniques that are unique to us Confucian cultivators. I'm afraid you don't know. Don't forget. Xiaohua smiled and said, I am the smartest little monk in the world. I was the one who taught you the 5 cheese unification technique. When the little monk was mentioned, Xian immediately thought of the time in the Xianshui palace, and the sweetness on her face deepened. She gently pulled Xiaohua's hand, and placed the 5-colored jade crystal into Xiaohua's hand, and whispered, Then take your time to comprehend it. Don't worry, gathering 9 Confucian cultivators at the peak of the 9th grade of essence energy isn't particularly difficult. The difficult part is being united. This concubine will discuss this with the master of the Tai Ching Palace, and if it doesn't work out, ask him to help the masters of the Shangqing Palace and Yuqing Palace, plus you and the master of the Wenxiu Palace. It should be about the same. TCH. Xiaohua pretended to be angry and said, I gave the master of the Shangqing Palace a good beating. How can he help me? Xiao Lang, you think everyone is as narrow-minded as you. Xian covered her mouth and laughed. When the master of the Tai Ching Palace heard about you, he even specially told me to take good care of you. All right. Xiaohua smiled and said, Then I'll take a look at the array formation first. If it doesn't work, I'll prepare a gift to bribe them. Do you think I should take the rejuvenation pill? Or get a few dragons from the Eastern Sea for them? Ha ha ha. Xian laughed until she was swaying back and forth. With a beauty by his side, the road might be far, but it was also close at hand. With a man by his side, even if one walked 1,000 miles, the road would still be too short. Xiaohua held Xian's hand, and they chatted and laughed along the way. Before long, they had returned to the Fortune Dao Palace. The disciples had already known that their sect master had returned with a beauty, and this woman was the high and mighty 9th princess of the immortal Emperor Ru Xiu, so they had already lined up outside the soaring Dragon Mountain range to welcome them. The liveliness made Xian's ears turn red from embarrassment. Even though she was unwilling in her heart, she didn't brush away Xiaohua's face or hurt the enthusiasm of the Fortune Gate's disciples. Needless to say, she was very familiar with this kind of etiquette, and her actions were appropriate. She had the bearing of a sect master's wife, and she won the respect of all the Fortune Gate's disciples. When they were seated in the Fortune Dao Palace, Xiaohua's disciples came forward to greet her, and Xian smiled in response. She then looked at Daoist Wu, heavenly beings, and the others, and said in a low voice, Brother Xiao, the etiquette is over. Now it's your Fortune Gate's internal affairs, and it's not appropriate for me to be here. How about I leave? All right. Xiaohua nodded and said, I've already sent a message to Bai An, and she should be back soon. Go to the back hall and wait for her. Subsequently, Xiaohua instructed Chang Yuan to accompany Xian back to the Fortune Dao Palace's inner hall. After Xian left, Xiaohua shook the Kunlun mirror and released the archdevil ancestor Shi. The moment he came out, He smiled and said, "Congratulations, big brother, congratulations, big brother. I hope you have a child soon." Chapter 46-61. Go. Xiaohua didn't know whether to laugh or cry when he heard Demon Venerable Shi say the same words he used to congratulate Su Ji and Xingyue. He raised his hand and said, "Hurry up and sit there. We have something important to discuss." "Yes, Sect Master." Demon Venerable Shi didn't dare to delay and quickly sat down. Xiaohua looked up and saw that Lu Yi had returned to the Fortune Palace and was standing beside Fu Jiwen. Xiaohua smiled and said, "Lu Yi, you're finally back." Lu Yi blushed and hurriedly bowed. "Disciple is unfilial. Please forgive me, Master." Disciple received Master's order and rushed back day and night. "I didn't dare to delay at all." "And, how's the situation at the Heavenly Abode River?" Xiaohua asked. Lu Yi hurriedly told her about the Heavenly Abode River. Although Jiang Hong was very ambitious, she also knew Xiaohua's character. Seeing that Ao Zhan had returned, she naturally would not do anything. Under Jiang Hong's leadership, the entire Heavenly Abode River had been thriving. Today, it had become a dragon tribe force second only to the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas. After Lu Yi finished speaking, Xiaohua nodded and said, "The West Sea was attacked by alien insects and the West Sea Dragon King went missing. You already know, right?" "Yes, Disciple knows." Lu Yi knew what Xiaohua wanted to say and hurriedly replied, "Presumably, Little Yun already knows. She must have led the Heavenly Abode River Dragon clan to the West Sea. Disciple will send a message for her to return." "No." Xiaohua waved his hand and said, "Let her go." "Ah." Lu Yi was shocked and said, "Master, if Little Yun goes, she will be aiming for the Dragon King of the West Sea Dragon Palace. She wants to." Xiaohua smiled and said, "Is it easy to be the Dragon King of the West Sea? Let her be the vanguard for the Dragon King of the West Sea." "Yes, Disciple understands." Lu Yi looked at Fu Jiwen and the others. He didn't know who the Dragon King of the West Sea was. He could only respectfully agree. "Since you're back, I'll leave the Fortune Palace's affairs to you." Xiaohua instructed, "Also, when your martial uncle Lei returned, I already told him about the alien insects. Others might not know how powerful they are, but your martial uncle Quang should know. I presume you all already have a plan by now, right?" "Yes, this disciple has already discussed it with the various martial uncles and senior brothers." Lu Yi hurriedly replied. However, before Master returned, the Creation Daoist Palace received an edict from the Immortal Palace, inviting Master to the Lingyun Side Palace to discuss the plan to repel the strange insects. Therefore, I think we should first see how the various forces will be divided. Ignore them. They simply don't know how powerful these alien insects are. Xiaohua waved his hand and said, "You only need to take them into consideration." And, Disciple has already thought about it. Lu Yi was about to report, but Xiaohua stopped him and said with a smile, "As the saying goes, to resist foreign aggression, one must first pacify the internal affairs. Let's talk about the matter of the alien insects later. Let's talk about the internal affairs of our Dao sect first." Lu Yi didn't understand, but he didn't ask and stood to the side. Xiaohua shook the Kunlun mirror and released Li Xiang and the others. After pondering for a moment, he had the unrelated disciples leave the Fortune Dao Palace first. He then said to Li Xiang and Xiong Yi, "Master has something to tell you. Don't be surprised." Looking at Xiaohua's solemn expression, Li Xiang and Xiong Yi were shocked. They exchanged a glance and hurriedly bowed. "Master, please speak." Xiaohua then told them about His Highness Lan's assassination attempt on Changyu. "How is that possible?" Li Xiang and Xiong Yi turned pale with fright when they heard Xiaohua's words. Xiongyi even asked, Master, are you sure? If I'm not sure, why would Master tell you? Xiaohua said coldly, in fact, Master was suppressed, and His Highness Lan's choice was considered normal. He sacrificed Master to protect the Fortune Gate. Even if he betrayed the Fortune Gate and joined the Grand Mist Ancestor, Master wouldn't blame him. However, he shouldn't have set up an ambush for you or Changyu. When Xiongyi heard Xiaohua's last sentence, he suddenly realized that the one His Highness Lan wanted to kill was him, not Changyu. If he had gone half a day earlier, the one standing here right now would be Changyu. Immediately, cold sweat trickled down his back. Xiongyi, do you think you're afraid? With such a vicious person by your side, can you cultivate in peace and deal with the Fortune Gate's affairs? Xiaohua asked. Disciple can't avoid this. To tell you the truth, disciple can't. Xiongyi answered honestly, now that I think about it, His Highness Lan has long had ulterior motives. But Li Xiang asked curiously, why did Master only mention it now? Could it be that for the past 50 years, you've been casting a long line to catch a big fish? That's right. Xiaohua nodded, this old man wants to see what that Grand Mist Ancestor is planning. Moreover, Master has ordered Fu Jiwen and the others to investigate His Highness Lan's actions. Jiwen, what do you think? Yes, Master. Fu Jiwen stepped forward and said, since the establishment of the Shao country, His Highness Lan has been the state preceptor. On the surface, there are several hundred Dao sects cultivators who have pledged allegiance to the Shao country, and His Highness Lan has ordered them to manage the Shao country's affairs. In the dark, there are more than a dozen forces that have entered the Shao country. That day, Master said that if possible, we should try our best not to set up any government in the Shao country. Of course, the decision-making power is still in His Highness Lan's hands, and he should consider the situation according to the actual situation. His Highness Lan used the reason that the Shao country is too big, and if there were no government or other organizations, it would be impossible to manage it. He has already sent a message to the soaring Dragon Mountain Range, and has already started to set up arrangements in the Shao country according to the secular world's Dao sect's embryonic form. As for these forces and those Dao sect's cultivators, due to the lack of time, Disciple has yet to investigate their origins. There's no need to investigate further. Xiaohua's face was ashen, and he waved his hand. These arrangements are definitely the Grand Mist Ancestor's idea, and it could also be the Sky-Bearing Palace's disciples. Damn it. Fu Jiwen gritted his teeth and said, the Grand Mist Ancestor is of our Dao sect's lineage, and the Sky-Bearing Palace that he established is of the same origin as our Fortune Gate. Now, he hasn't even shown his banner in the hidden immortal continent, and he's already starting to make moves behind our backs, truly hateful. Louis laughed, Master is even worse, making such a big Shao country. The Sky-Bearing Palace's cultivators are already hard to settle down, and now they're all sent here at once. Won't they be swallowed by Master in the future? Things are far from as simple as we think. Xiaohua sighed, if it weren't for the alien insect's attack, Master might have slowly played chess with the Grand Mist Ancestor. Now that the hidden immortal continent is on the verge of destruction, Master doesn't have the time to dawdle with him. However, there's no need to make things clear with the Grand Mist Ancestor. Let's see if he has any other plans. Li Xiang, Xiongyi, listen up. Yes, Disciple is here. Xiongyi and Li Xiang hurriedly bowed and answered. Xiaohua instructed, the two of you are not inferior to His Highness Lan's ability to stabilize the country, and if His Highness Lan is the only one in charge of the Shao country, there will be a flaw. Therefore, Master orders the two of you to lead your disciples to the Shao country, and discuss with His Highness Lan to divide the Shao country into 3 parts. This way, 1, you can dispel the Grand Mist Ancestor's doubts, and 2, you can force him to invest more forces in the Shao country. Yes, Sect Master. Li Xiang and Xiong Yi accepted the order and left. Finally, Xiaohua looked at Lu Yi and said, regarding the alien insects, Master had already warned the Gochen Immortal Emperor, the Dipankara Archaic Buddha, and the Golden-Winged Great Rock in the Longevity Town. However, from the current situation, other than the Golden-Winged Great Rock, the other two turned a deaf ear to it. They don't understand the significance of the alien insects. Master. Fu Jiwen smiled, don't be too angry. Humans are all like this. Seeing is believing. If they didn't see it with their own eyes, how would they believe that a strange insect could destroy the world? If Senior Apprentice Uncle Yen didn't mention it, and if we didn't witness the tragedy of the world's destruction in the ruins, I'm afraid we wouldn't believe it so easily. After all, how could the world's destruction be so easy? This is also the saying of the secular world, don't turn back until you hit the southern wall. Xiaohua smiled and asked Lu Yi, the alien insects have already appeared in the borders of the 3 continents and 4 seas. The Yu province is in the middle of the buried immortal mainland, and the Shao country is in the Gun province. There's still some time before the alien insects attack, so we should make full use of this time to set up defenses in the Fortune Gate and Shao country. Lu Yi, I'm sure you all already have a plan, tell us. Yes, Master. Lu Yi hurriedly explained the Fortune Gate's defense plan in the Shao country and the soaring Dragon Mountain range to Xiaohua. Xiaohua clapped his hands and said, good, with such a plan, I'm sure it will be able to resist the alien worms. However, you all don't have to worry. If something dangerous happens, doesn't our Fortune Gate still have the Xinhua mainland? Disciple understands. Wang Bianfei smiled and said, but if we go, what about the Shao country citizens? What about the Shi country citizens, the Yu province, and even the 9 prefectures citizens? Master probably can't bear to see them being devoured by the alien insects, right? Humph. Xiaohua's heart sank when he heard Wang Bianfei's words. Ordinary cultivators were no match for the alien insects, not to mention the 3 continents human race and demonic beast race. They were simply food for the alien insects. During the Jade Pavilion conference, Master must force them to join forces to resist the alien insects. Lu Yi reminded, joining forces is inevitable, but how to do so is a problem. The Great Sage Temple is responsible for the 1,000 demonic sacred territory, the Immortal Palace is responsible for the hidden immortal mainland, the Buddhist sect is responsible for the Pure Land, and the Dragon Palace is responsible for the 4 seas. What about our Fortune Gate? Lu Yi, what do you think? Xiaohua asked with interest. That depends on Master's plan after the catastrophe. Lu Yi opened his mouth, and his words were imbued with Jiang Hong's subtle influence. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support. Chapter 4662. Xiaohua smiled wryly at Lu Yi's words. He had always been a person who took half a step forward, how could he have thought of such things? Moreover, when he saw the alien worms warning, his mind was filled with thoughts of how to eliminate the alien worms and how to save the 3 mainlands people. How could he have thought of so many things? Master doesn't understand these things. Xiaohua waved his hand and said, why else would I send you back to the Fortune Gate? Yes. Lu Yi nodded. He pondered for a moment before saying, didn't Master say earlier? Send little Yun to the West Sea first. Now that the West Sea Dragon King's whereabouts are unknown, it's a good opportunity to intervene in the West Sea. Moreover, Master is the Dragon Island's Dragon Master, so why not take over the West Sea's defenses? Xiaohua pondered. He knew that the Dragon Island's control over the 4 Seas Dragon Palaces was weak, and they wanted to use him to restrain the 4 Seas Dragon Palaces. Moreover, he had just established his authority in the South Sea Dragon Palace, and the 4 Seas Dragon Kings were afraid of him. If he took this opportunity to defend the West Sea, with the support of the Heavenly Paradise River's Dragon Tribe and Aojan, he had a 70% chance of controlling the West Sea Dragon Palace. This way, he could lay the foundation for Xiao Bai to enter the West Sea Dragon Palace, find a way out for the Fortune Gate's disciples, and protect Xuanzang. And, we'll do as you say. Prepare to dispatch disciples. When Master returns from the Jade Lake, we will defend the West Sea. Xiao Hua agreed with Lu Yi's suggestion. However, Xiao Hua had just finished speaking when Lu Yi hesitated for a moment and said, Master, disciple and the others still have something to say to Master. Oh. What is it that makes it so difficult? Xiao Hua asked curiously. Lu Yi glanced at Fu Jiwen and Wang Bianfei. Fu Jiwen nodded and stepped forward. Master, it's like this. After junior brother Lu returned from the Heavenly Paradise River, he took over the Fortune Gate's daily affairs. Then, Marshal Uncle Lei and the others returned and told us about the alien worms invasion. We all felt that this matter was troublesome. If our Fortune Gate's disciples only defended the Xiao country and the soaring Dragon Mountain range, it would be easy. But with Master's benevolence, he would definitely take the 3 mainlands into consideration. Although Disciple did not think of going to the West Sea's defenses, he would definitely send disciples out. In that case, our Fortune Gate's disciples would have to fight on 3 fronts. Our Fortune Gate's foundation's foundation, if we split our forces would be divided, our strength would be divided. That's why I think it's better to concentrate our forces. Wang Bianfei continued, if there were no alien insects, the Fortune Dao Palace would be located in the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range, and the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range would be the foundation of my Fortune Gate. However, since there is the danger of alien insects attacking, this Soaring Dragon Mountain Range's Fortune Gate has become our burden. Also, the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range was in the hidden Immortal Continent, which was in the center of Yu Province, and Yu Province was the center of 9 regions. How could the Immortal Palace let the foundation of a Dao sect be like a nail in their heart? After the rise of the Fortune Gate, the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range is no longer the first choice. Yu Zhongquan chimed in, moreover, the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range's Fortune Gate's disciples are all low-grade Fortune Gate disciples, and they are the most vulnerable to the strange insects' attacks. Instead of letting them stay here under the protection of other high-grade Fortune Gate disciples, they should be protected from the Kunlun Mirror. Also, most of the Fortune Gate's disciples are from the Kunlun Immortal Realm Xinhua mainland. They don't have much of a sense of belonging to this Fortune Gate. Therefore, the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range's Fortune Gate is merely a symbol. Now that the strange insects have attacked, it has become a burden. And, Master understands. Xiao Hua nodded slightly. Seeing that Xiao Hua's expression did not change, Lu Yi was relieved. He was the one who suggested this matter, and he knew that Xiao Hua did not like Jiang Hong for being too ambitious and utilitarian, so he did not dare to mention it. What are your thoughts? Xiao Hua turned to look at Lightning Reverend and the others. Lightning Reverend smiled and said, I am the creator of the Xinhua mainland's Fortune Gate. Of course, I like the Xinhua mainland's Fortune Gate. Wen Chu, Buddha Maitreya, World-Honored One, and Feng Wu were not present. Daoist Witch and Reverend Yun exchanged a glance, and Daoist Witch said, what my disciples said makes sense. Although the heaven and earth energy here is abundant, it is still lacking compared to the Xinhua mainland. Instead of letting them stay here in fear, it is better to not send them into the Kunlun Immortal Realm. Moreover, the Fortune Gate's strength has retreated from the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range, which is a good thing for Axian. Didn't she mention this matter before? It's just that she wants you to go to the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm. Moreover, our Fortune Gate does not want to expand our forces in the hidden Immortal Continent. We only created the Xiao country to protect the common people. The Fortune Gate's retreat in the soaring Dragon Mountain range has highlighted fellow Daoists' view of the big picture. Whoever wants to touch the Shao country will not be able to do so. Brothers. Archdevil Venerable Shi also said with a smile, "Boy, what you said makes sense. If the strange insects attack, you and I will not be here, and we will even have to leave a brother here to guard this place. Not only will it be a waste, but it will also worry us. Why don't we move the Fortune Gate to the Xinhua mainland? How can it be safer than the human race's Mahayana realm experts?" After Xiao Hua heard this, he understood that the soaring Dragon Mountain Range's creation gate was indeed necessary to exist before the invasion of the alien insects. It could form an even bigger creation gate with the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm and the Pure Land in the future. However, now that the alien insects had attacked, his plans had to be pushed back. The soaring Dragon Mountain Range's creation gate was no longer interesting. Rather than that, it was better to send it directly to the Xinhua continent. After the apocalypse passed, he could rebuild it according to the specific situation. But there was another problem with this arrangement. If the Fortune Gate's disciples were to be kept in their own space, who would resist the strange insects? Wouldn't the Fortune Gate be an empty shell? Thus, Xiaohua voiced out his concerns. Lu Yi and the others discussed and said, "Master, how about this? We will send the soaring Dragon Mountain Range's low-level disciples to the Xinhua mainland and let the Xinhua mainland's high-level disciples stay on the continent to resist the strange insects. What do you think?" "Good." Xiaohua nodded and said, "In that case, Lu Yi, pass down this old man's order. Start organizing the Fortune Gate's things. When Master returns from the Jade Lake, the low-level disciples guarding the soaring Dragon Mountain Range will be sent to the Kunlun Immortal Realm. You all should also prepare to go to the West Sea. Of course, the disciples going to the Shao country must be arranged well." "Yes, disciple will obey sect master's order." Lu Yi was overjoyed. Xiaohua then discussed some matters with the disciples and dismissed them. After the disciples left, Xiaohua said to Lightning Daoist and the others, the Confucian, Buddhist, Daoist, and demonic beast races must join forces to resist the alien insects. However, the resistance of the 3 continents and 4 seas is only a temporary solution. If we want to kill the strange insects and completely block them from entering the 3 continents, we still need to block the space passage that the strange insects use to invade the 3 continents. This old man has seen billions of strange insects in the West Sea's eye, and this old man also appeared near the Yu Province cauldron through the space passage. From the 5-9 prefectures cauldrons that I obtained from Kong Hongwu, that guy must have destroyed the 9 prefectures' grand formation. Those strange insects must have invaded the 3 continents through the space passage because the 9 prefectures' grand formation was destroyed. Therefore, if we want to eradicate the alien insects, we must re-establish the 9 prefectures' grand formation. I and the others understand this. Daoist Wu nodded. After the 9 prefectures' grand formation was destroyed, the hidden immortal continent suffered endless disasters. Even if there were no alien insects, we must re-establish the grand formation as soon as possible. The celestial being laughed. Of course, this is related to fellow Taoists' happiness. Right now, there are exactly 9 sect masters in our Fortune Gate. Isn't it because the heavens want our Fortune Gate to re-establish the 9 prefectures' grand formation? Alright, let's not talk about it anymore. Xiaohua smiled faintly and took out the 5-colored jade crystal, saying, "Fellow Taoists, we will now comprehend the 9 prefectures' grand formations method." Good. The doppelgangers nodded and closed their eyes after Xiaohua. A few days later, Xiaohua was the first to open his eyes. Although he was frowning, there was also a trace of joy on his face. A few breaths later, the doppelgangers also opened their eyes. Xiaohua said, "This 9 prefectures' grand formation is indeed extraordinary. It's not the Cultivation World's array. If I'm not mistaken, it should be the Heavenly Court's Immortal Defense Array. The 9 Prefectures Grand Formation's method of setting it up is also a work of art. It's truly unimaginable. To think that it can borrow the strength of 9 venerable realm cultivators to successfully set it up. Lightning Daoist agreed, the method of setting up this grand formation isn't difficult. Although it requires the use of the 5 cheese unifications, fellow Daoist knows how to do it. However, it's extremely difficult to use the spirit and branches interlocking technique. Axian has never seen the method of setting up this grand formation. Her thinking is too simple. If it wasn't difficult, why would old man Gauchin hand it over to us? Daoist Wu sneered. He himself knows that the 9 cultivators setting up the grand formation not only have to work together, but they also have to be telepathic and be able to activate the 9 prefectures' cauldrons at the same time. This is 9 people awe. It's hard to find an immortal palace, hard to find in this world. What 3 purities palace master? None of them can be used. Xiaohua narrowed his eyes and said, this is a challenge, but it's also an opportunity. If the 9 of us can successfully cultivate this spirit and branches interlocking technique, our divine senses, Buddhist senses, elemental senses, and devil senses will be able to cover the entire hidden immortal continent. In other words, you can enter Xinhua continent from anywhere in the hidden immortal continent as you wish. Indeed, this is the only benefit of setting up the grand formation. Celestial being said with a smile. Not only that. Xiaohua smiled and said, this spirit and branches interlocking technique doesn't seem to be a secret technique of the Heavenly Court. There might be other secrets. This old man feels that if we can cultivate this to the extreme, there will be miraculous effects that we can't imagine. Big brother. Just as Xiaohua was discussing with his clones in high spirits, Demon Sovereign Sure cried out, little brother is from the devil race. This 5 cheese unifications technique can't be cultivated at all. Little brother can't activate your Xiantian true chi either. How is that possible? Xiaohua was shocked and shouted, didn't the underworld judge use this Xiantian true chi to temper his body? Not to mention that you are a devil formation devil spirit body condensation technique. How can you not activate it? Chapter 46-63. Big Brother. Demon Venerable Sure hurriedly explained, I'm sure you know that the netherworld energy is the energy of death, and the energy refined by Confucian cultivators is the energy of life. If you absorb the energy of life, you can activate the energy of death, which is beneficial to the cultivation of the substitute of the Judge of Hell. However, the noble energy is the energy of justice, which is the natural opposite of the devil energy of the devil race. It's completely different from the Tao of life and death. I can't cultivate the cultivation technique of the devil race with the help of the noble energy, so I can't activate the innate energy. Of course, I've thought the same as you, Big Brother. I'm a condensed body of a devil spirit from the devil formation of the upper realm, so I can totally suppress the innate energy and control it. But when I tried it just now, it's not like that at all. Fellow Daoist, you're too careless. Daoist which echoed, the 9 cauldrons are used to suppress the fate of the human race. How can they be activated by the devil race? Xiaohua's brows furrowed. Daoist which had wronged him by saying he was careless, because in his heart, he had never regarded Demon Venerable Sure as a real Demon Venerable. Xiaohua had cultivated the 5 energies of origin in his 5 viscera and 6 bowels, and cultivated the devil cultivation technique in his bloodline. Later on, when he became a clone, he gave these techniques to his clones to cultivate. Usually, when he activated the devil cultivation technique and the Confucian cultivation technique, there was nothing wrong with them. Therefore, he always thought that Demon Venerable Sure could also activate the Confucian cultivation technique like him. But he had never thought that Demon Venerable Sure had become a real devil, and he could no longer freely use the Confucian cultivation technique like Xiaohua. What about my fellow Taoists? Xiaohua asked the other clones worriedly. Let me tell you. Taoist Witch and the others looked at each other and answered, the noble energy has no innate conflict with what we cultivate. We have no problem with it. Hee hee. Reverend Yun even laughed and said, my heavenly dragon language technique can activate the 9 cauldrons better than the 5 energies of origin. Sigh. Xiaohua sighed and said, the dragon race has always had a secret with the human race. It's just that we don't know about it. And you've activated the 9 cauldrons before, so of course you can do it. Big brother, what do we do now? Demon Venerable Sure asked with a sullen face. Our fortune gate has exactly 9 patriarchs. Since we're missing one, we should send a Confucian cultivator to replace you. Xiaohua said helplessly, even though he really didn't want to expose his relationship with his avatars. What about Heavenly Tao Xiaohua and Karma Xiaohua? Celestial suggested. Their attacks should be more powerful than ours. They haven't formed yet, we can't place our hopes on them. Xiaohua shook his head. Didn't Big Brother say that? My fortune gate still has a 10th-old master. Honorable Devil Sure suggested. Why don't we let him come? He has no chance. Xiaohua waved his hand, even if he comes back, his strength can't compare to ours. You'd better practice the same Qi connection technique first before thinking about how to activate the 9 cauldrons. As for the Confucian cultivators, I have come into contact with only the master of the 3 Purities Palace. As for which one, I will discuss it with the Immortal Emperor at the Jade Pool. That's the only way. Lightning Reverend nodded, it will take us a lot of time to comprehend the same Qi connection technique. Let's talk about it at that time. Since the discussion had come to an end, all the clones returned to the space and seized the time to comprehend the same Qi connection technique, leaving only Reverend Yun to guard the Fortune Palace. Xiaohua summoned Axian and told him that he was going to attend the Jade Pool gathering at the High Cloud Side Palace. Axian didn't have any hesitation and refused Xiaohua's request to take him along. However, he heard her very shyly say, Xiao Lang, His Majesty is giving pointers to the 9 regions' great array to let this concubine follow you. This is already a crime against the whole world. If you bring me to the Jade Pool gathering, it will be a slap to the Immortal Palace's face. I'll stay at the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range and help you with the sex affairs. When Baitan returns, I'll help you with the star-picking tower. All right. Xiaohua thought that it would be much safer to send Axian into the space, but when he thought about how far the alien insects were from here and how Reverend Yun was guarding the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range, he nodded in agreement. My dear Xiao, are you going to attend the Jade Pool gathering? Seeing that Xiaohua was about to leave the Fortune Dao Palace, Axian explained obediently, if you're going to the High Cloud Side Palace, you only need to open His Majesty's decree and there will naturally be a patrol envoy to welcome you. Before heading to the Jade Pool gathering, there's still one more place to go. Xiaohua looked outside the Fortune Dao Palace and replied thoughtfully. Where? Axian blurted out. However, she smiled and said, I'm asking too much. Oh, this isn't important. Xiaohua waved his hand and said, the world's Dao sects are already declining. Today, the hidden Immortal Dao Gate is opening. With me, Xiaohua, in the world, who dares to let their disciples be bullied? Hee hee. Hearing Xiaohua's words, Axian covered her mouth and laughed. Reverend Xiao really cares about the world. I'm only at the 4th level of elemental energy, but I actually dared to set up a blood steel in the bronze pillar state. If this matter were to spread to the Immortal Palace, it would definitely be treated as a huge joke. Even without the patrol envoy's help, ordinary soil would flatten this blood steel. I don't know what Reverend Xiao was thinking that day. You actually dared to say such bold words. Aren't you afraid of being hunted down by the Xianhuang order? Xiao Hua shrugged and said somewhat embarrassedly, at that time, this Xiao had just arrived at the Bronze Pillar State from the country of Xi. I didn't know about the Xianhuang order. Moreover, Dao Shan died too miserably. This Xiao was furious. When I thought of the hidden immortal continent's Dao Gate being bullied, this Xiao erected the blood steel in a fit of anger. Later on, when I thought about it, I also felt that I was too arrogant. However, this Xiao didn't have time to go to the Bronze Pillar State. Hearing this, Xian's face turned serious and said, this blood steel. Forget it, I won't talk about it. You'll know when you see it. Fortunately, Dao Shan died miserably. The Bronze Pillar State's king felt that he was in the wrong. Later on, the Bronze Pillar State's fate declined and was replaced by another state called the Jade Ping State. At that time, you already made a name for yourself in the blood pool of gods and devils. Some scholarly families' literary sages also helped you spread the seeds. That Jade Ping State didn't dare to offend the literary sages and kept the Seven Suns Temple. As for later on, I was imprisoned and didn't know about the Seven Suns Temple. Xiao Hua's heart thumped as he asked curiously, oh, why are you hesitating? Hee, what happened before? It's fine if you don't know about it. Xian smiled. She originally didn't want to talk about it. However, looking at Xiao Hua's expression, she rolled her eyes and said, forget it, since you want to know, I'll tell you. Actually, you'll know when you think about it. You're only a 4th grade Dao sect cultivator. You actually dared to set up a blood steel in the hidden immortal continent. Although the Bronze Pillar State didn't dare to touch your blood steel, what about the other scholarly cultivators? The Great Grand Master dismissed it with a smile. What about the masters? Literary sages. To be honest, you still have to thank the Bronze Pillar Academy. Oh, no, it should be called the Jade Ping Academy now. Otherwise, not only would your blood steel be filthy, even the Seven Suns Temple would have been destroyed. Of course, now that your name has shaken the world, the blood steel and Seven Suns Temple would naturally be different from before. I'm telling you now because I want you to know that although it's good for people to have lofty aspirations, if you rashly tell others about it and don't have the strength to realize it, you might become a joke. Before Xian could finish, Xiao Hua laughed and said, don't worry. With my current status, how could I make a move in the Jade Ping Academy? You're thinking too much. After saying that, Xiao Hua's figure flashed and turned into a rainbow as he rushed out of the Fortune Dao Palace. Seeing that Xiao Hua had left, Xian shook his head with a wry smile. Xiao Hua, how could you know about the matters of the world by yourself? Even if you're now a Grand Ascension Stage Dao Sect cultivator, I'm afraid you don't know that the blood steel has been erected in the Seven Suns Temple for hundreds of years and that many strange things have happened. The soaring Dragon Mountain Range wasn't too far away from the Copper Pillar Nation and the current Jade Rock Nation. Not long after Xiao Hua flew out, his spiritual force had already found the Seven Yang Monastery. He didn't need to use the lightning escape technique. In just a short while, Xiao Hua had already flown above the Seven Yang Monastery. Hearing Xian's words, Xiao Hua felt a little nervous. He didn't know what the Seven Suns Temple was like now. Moreover, Su Zhi had specially mentioned the Seven Suns Temple in the Star Moon Palace, so Xiao Hua had a lot of ideas along the way. But when he saw the current state of the Seven Suns Temple, he was a little surprised. He couldn't help but whisper, oh. That's a little strange. Because the Seven Suns Temple was still the Seven Suns Temple, it seemed that the 300 years hadn't left any traces in the Seven Suns Temple. Although there were no traces of people in the Seven Suns Temple, the blood steel was still standing there and hadn't collapsed like Xiao Hua had imagined. Even the entire Seven Suns Temple was abnormally clean and didn't have a garden full of weeds like Xiaohua had imagined. Something must have happened that I don't know about, Xiaohua thought as he descended towards the Seven Suns Temple. However, before he could land, he saw 3 cultivators in Daoist robes rushing towards the Seven Suns Temple in a rather pathetic manner. Behind them, there were 2 Confucian cultivators who were chasing after them on clouds with flying swords in their hands. When the 3 Daoist cultivators saw the shadow of the Seven Suns Temple appear in front of them, joy appeared on their faces. They activated their dermic powers and their speed increased by 30%. On the other hand, the 2 scholarly cultivators became anxious. They looked at each other and opened their mouths, sending several mouthfuls of true qi into the flying swords in their hands. Woo! The 2 flying swords turned into sword lights and chased after 2 of the 3 cultivators. At the same time, the 2 scholarly cultivators' bodies became sluggish and fell a few feet. It seemed that their true qi was somewhat exhausted. I hope that when he sees this, he can leave a comment in the book review section. Thank you. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support it. Chapter 46-64. The flying swords were like lightning, and in the blink of an eye, they had already landed on the backs of the 2 Dao sect cultivators. The 2 Dao sect cultivators didn't panic and waved their hands behind them. 2 defensive magic treasures flew out and blocked the flying swords. Puff puff. The flying swords pierced the magic treasures and emitted a bright light. The flying swords and magic treasures were both sent flying at the same time. Break. At this moment, the 2 Confucian cultivators behind began to chant inscriptions. Boom boom. The 2 flying swords exploded at the same time and turned into a rain of swords that fell towards the 2. Not good. The 2 scanned with their divine senses and both knew that things were not good. Xiaohua, who was high up in the sky, frowned. Just as he was about to raise his hand, the 2 Dao sect cultivators waved their hands at the same time. 2 black ropes flew out of their hands and fell towards the 3rd person. Looking at the 3rd person, it was clear that he was prepared. Just as the 2 Dao sect cultivators attacked, his body suddenly fell. The 2 hands under his robe raised at the same time and 2 small snakes that were about an inch long rushed out and bit towards the 2 Dao sect cultivators' arms. Seeing the 3 of them fighting like this, Xiaohua's eyes flashed with anger. He immediately withdrew his divine ability and stood quietly in the sky, no longer attacking. Swish swish. When the 2 small snakes appeared, the 2 Dao sect cultivators who attacked seemed to be afraid. They hurriedly controlled the ropes to land on the small snakes. With 2 soft sounds, the small snakes were killed. At the same time, puff puff. With several muffled sounds, 2 clusters of broken sword light fell onto the backs of the 2 Dao sect cultivators. Although there were some fluctuations of magic power on their backs, they were still unable to block it. The 2 Dao sect cultivators fell to the ground. Humph. The 3rd Dao sect cultivator coldly snorted and flew high up into the sky. Like a bird, he charged into the Seven Suns Temple. Once he entered the Seven Suns Temple, the Daoist cultivator's courage was boosted. He stood on the wall of the Seven Suns Temple and shouted coldly, Kong Feng, Kong Jia, the 2 of you have chased I for more than 6,000 miles. Now that I can no longer fly, come and kill me. At this time, the 2 Confucian cultivators had already flown to the 2 injured Taoist cultivators who had fallen to the ground. They ignored the provocation of the Taoist cultivators and raised their hands to take out 2 thin ropes that were more than a foot long. As their true qi fell on the ropes, blood-red armor inscriptions gushed out. As soon as the inscriptions appeared, the 2 thin ropes fell on the 2 Taoist cultivators like inscription chains and firmly tied them up. After doing all this, one of the Confucian cultivators raised his eyes to look at the Taoist cultivator standing on the wall and said coldly, "Yu Feihu, if you have the guts, then come down and compete. What kind of man are you if you're standing on top? The higher you stand, the farther you can see." The Taoist cultivator named Yu Feihu saw that the two Confucian cultivators didn't dare to come closer and became even bolder. He said proudly, "Don't tell me the two of you don't want to see 1,000 miles and reach a higher level. Damn it." One of the Confucian cultivators was a little angry. He raised his hand and pointed at Yu Feihu. He said angrily, "You have the ability to kill 49 young boys and girls as a blood sacrifice for your Dharma artifact. Why do you have the guts to fight me to the death? Those young boys and girls are people in trouble. Even if I don't do anything, they won't live for more than a few days. Since that's the case, why can't I sacrifice them for my Dharma artifact?" Yu Feihu sneered. "Besides, the two of you are just constables from the Qin kingdom. Why are you in the Fongjing kingdom's territory? Since it's a heinous crime, no matter where you are, I should arrest you." The more the Confucian cultivator spoke, the angrier he became. Suddenly, his body moved, and a multicolored light appeared as he pounced at Yu Feihu. Ha! Yu Feihu wasn't afraid at all. His body flashed and he jumped into the Seven Suns Temple. He laughed and said, "Kong Jia, why don't you come in? This is the Seven Suns Temple. In front of me is Daoist Zhao's blood steel. You dare to bully my Daoist disciples in front of the blood steel? Aren't you afraid that your Qin kingdom will annihilate the Fortune Gate?" Sure enough, Kong Jia's body flew to the walls of the Seven Suns Temple and stopped. She didn't dare to take half a step forward. There was a look of unwillingness on her face. "What's wrong? You don't dare to come in." Yu Feihu became even more arrogant. He laughed wildly and said, "Didn't you chase me for thousands of miles to take my life? Now that I'm standing in front of you, why don't you dare to move?" Confucian cultivators, oh Confucian cultivators, you have stood tall in the hidden immortal continent for countless years. My Daoist cultivators have been humiliated by you for countless years. Now, my Daoist sect is no longer the Daoist sect of the past. My Daoist sect can finally stand tall. Damn it. Kong Jia was enraged. She urged her body to charge into the Seven Suns Temple to capture Yu Feihu. When Yu Feihu saw Kong Jia flying out, he couldn't help but be stunned. He hurriedly jumped down the wall. At this moment, Kong Feng had already flown behind Kong Jia. Seeing Kong Jia acting rashly, Kong Feng turned pale with fright. He disregarded everything and rushed forward to block Kong Jia. He anxiously said, "Kong Jia, what are you doing? Don't forget. This is the blood steel where the Daoist sect's Grand Ascension Stage Daoist sect was established. It's not a place for small fries like us to barge in. Our lives are a small matter. If we provoke the Fortune Gate, what will happen to my Kong family in Qin Kingdom? Don't fall for this bastard's trick. Damn it." Kong Jia saw that Yu Feihu was about to jump off the wall, but when she saw Kong Feng blocking her, she arrogantly stood on the wall. However, Yu Feihu was tactful and didn't dare to provoke her anymore. Kong Jia couldn't help but curse, "Daoist Zhao is really..." Unfortunately, before Kong Jia could say anything else, Kong Feng was scared out of his wits. He covered Kong Jia's mouth and dragged her away. Ha! Yu Feihu looked at the two constables and laughed to his heart's content. He pointed at the two of them and said, "You should know that the days of my Dao Gate civil servants are over." Scram! While Yu Feihu was laughing, there was a sudden roar that sounded like a thunderclap. It scared Yu Feihu. At the same time, a huge force came from behind him. Before he could react, he was thrown off the wall by the huge force. Furthermore, at the same time that the huge force landed on his body, the FA around him was already restricted. Scum of the Tao Gate. At the place where Yu Feihu was standing, an old man wearing a scholar's robe appeared. This old man's forehead was protruding, and his face looked very simple. His head of white hair was as neat as silver strands. Although it was blown by the wind, not a single strand of hair fluttered. Wasn't this the Copper Pillar Imperial Academy's Beigo Zhenming that Xiao Hua had met at the Black Wind Ridge? However, time had not left its mark on the Seven Sun Shrine, but it had left its mark on his body. Many thanks, Senior. Kong Jia was overjoyed. She rushed over and captured Yu Feihu. Kong Feng hurriedly flew in front of Beigo Zhenming and bowed respectfully. Junior Kong Feng greets Senior. Senior, how dare you use your divine ability in the Seven Sun Shrine? If the Fortune Gate and Daoist Xiao were to find out, I'm afraid a calamity will befall you. Beigo Zhenming stood in the air and waved his hand with a smile. You are too careful. Daoist Xiao's intention in setting up the blood steel was to establish the Tao Gate, not to protect these scum of the Tao Gate. Just like those rumors, no one dares to go to the Fortune Gate to verify them. These shameless scum used the rumors to absolve themselves of their crimes. In the end, Daoist Xiao's intention was covered up, and his kindness was distorted. So that's how it is. Hearing this, Kong Feng was enlightened. He looked at the blood steel in the Seven Sun Shrine and asked in a low voice, Senior, you. How do you know so much? He, this old man is Beigo Zhenming. Beigo Zhenming replied with a smile. When Daoist Xiao set up the blood steel, this old man was the dean of the Copper Pillar Imperial Academy. I even fought with Daoist Xiao. However, this old man is already old, and Daoist Xiao is like the sun in the sky. This old man felt Daoist Xiao's glory back then, and because I was entrusted by someone, I opened a library near the Seven Sun Shrine and spent the rest of my life here. Oh, so it's Senior Beigo. This junior greets you. Kong Feng had never heard of Beigo Zhenming's name before, but he still hurried to greet him. At this time, Kong Jia had also captured the three scum of the Tao Gate and came over to greet Beigo Zhenming. The space looked at the blood steel and asked in a low voice, can this junior enter the Seven Sun Shrine to pay respects to Daoist Xiao's blood steel? Of course. Beigo Zhenming smiled and said, Daoist Xiao never said that the Seven Sun Shrine was a forbidden area for Confucian cultivators. Anyone can enter. Hearing this, Kong Jia moved her body and entered the Seven Sun Shrine. Kong Feng opened his mouth, then entered with a bitter smile on his face. The Tao Gate of the world has already declined. Today, the hidden immortal Tao Gate is opened. With me, Xiao Hua, in the world, how dare you let your disciples be bullied? Kong Jia looked at the blood steel in the Seven Sun Shrine and read it word by word. Finally, she said, Daoist Xiao's tone is really big. At this point, Kong Jia realized that she was being rude. She hurriedly rolled her eyes and said, Senior Beigo, if Daoist Xiao said those words with the strength of a Daoist Mahayana realm, no one in the world would not bow down. Who would dare to say no? However, this junior heard that Daoist Xiao was only around the 5th grade of origin energy. His strength was not as profound as Senior's. How could he dare to say such bold words? Beigo Zhenming smiled and said, You are absolutely right. If Daoist Xiao said those words now, it would definitely be bold words. However, if he said those words back then, even this old man felt that it was somewhat arrogant. However, the situation that day was like this. Then, Beigo Zhenming explained the situation. Kong Feng and Kong Jia were originally constables. After hearing this, they gnashed their teeth and said, the Jiang clan is really despicable. No wonder Daoist Xiao was so angry that he set up the blood steel. Chapter 4665. That's right. Daoist Master Xiao didn't set up this blood steel to provoke us Confucian cultivators. It's a steel of justice for the human race. Beigua Zhenming nodded. Daoist Master Xiao wanted to let the Jiang family and the Copper Pillar State know that even if the Daoist sect declined, justice still exists. If Confucian cultivators ignore justice, they will also decline. Oh, Senior Beigua. Hearing this, Kong Feng nodded his head, but Kong Jia couldn't help but ask, why are there so many cracks on this blood steel? It doesn't look like a complete steel. Yes, this blood steel is no longer the blood steel that Daoist Master Xiao used to set up the Daoist sect. Beigua Zhenming explained, ever since Daoist Master Xiao left the Copper Pillar State, this blood steel became more and more famous. Many immortals came to check it out, but many of them took it as a joke and left. Some of them were unhappy, but after hearing about Dao Shan, they didn't make things difficult for this blood steel. However, there are still some immortals who don't like this blood steel and don't care about Daoist Master Zhao's reputation. They want to destroy this blood steel. Usually, I will persuade and stop them. If I can't stop them, I can only let them do it. After that, I will restore this blood steel. Of course, ever since Daoist Master Xiao planted good seeds in the God-fiend blood pool, the sage of literature also spread the word. Therefore, fewer immortals came to the Seven Suns Temple to make things difficult for this blood steel. Beigua Zhenming said with a smile. I also have more free time to teach students how to recite. Just as Beigua Zhenming was talking to the two constables, the sound of a child reciting could be heard from the side of the Seven Suns Temple. Senior Beigua. Kong Feng was puzzled. I have a question to ask you. Oh. Please ask. Beigua Zhenming replied with a smile. This. Kong Feng hesitated for a moment and asked embarrassedly, I don't understand. Senior, you are a Confucian cultivator and have fought with Daoist Master Xiao. Moreover, you are not from the Jiang family. Why are you guarding the Seven Suns Temple? Why? Are you restoring the blood steel? You are not the only one asking about this. Beigua Zhenming laughed. You don't have to be embarrassed. This old man is not a person who fishes for fame, nor have I ever thought of relying on this matter to become famous. This old man was originally entrusted to guard this place by someone. That person was afraid that Daoist Xiao would feel resentment towards the Bronze Pillar State and even the Confucian cultivators of Yu Province after seeing the blood steel destroyed. That person asked this old man to guard this place. Ah. Who is that person? Kong Jia said in surprise. That person actually predicted that Daoist Master Xiao would definitely have the strength of a Daoist Grand Ascension stage cultivator in the future. You don't need to know who that person is. Beigua Zhenming replied. I don't know whether or not he knew about Daoist Master Zhao's current situation. However, at that time, the Bronze Pillar country had just been destroyed and I was a little disheartened. I resigned from the Imperial Academy and wanted to live in seclusion in the mountains. That person probably wanted me to stay and told me his worries. Since I had nothing to do, I saw some helpless children around the Seven Suns Temple and some disabled beggars. My heart skipped a beat and I thought of Dao Shan. The Daoist sect only knows how to give porridge while we Confucian cultivators know how to educate. I don't believe that I can't do better than Dao Shan. Therefore, I agreed to that person's request. On one hand, I will guard the blood steel and the Seven Suns Temple. On the other hand, I will teach those poor people how to make a living. Look at the Seven Suns Temple now. Isn't it more lively than the Seven Suns Temple in the past? The way we Confucian cultivators help the world far surpasses that of the Daoist sect. Che. Just as Beigo Jinming was excitedly explaining, a voice came from the sky. I thought that you were guarding the blood steel for me out of kindness. I didn't expect you to be so determined to win and compete with the dead Master Dao Shan. Following the voice, a figure descended and stood in front of Beigo Jinming. Ah! Xiao! Daoist Xiao! Beigo Jinming was slightly shocked. He looked at Xiao Hua, who was not exactly the same as he was hundreds of years ago. He hurriedly bowed and said, Jinming greets Daoist Xiao. Please forgive me. No need, no need. How could Xiao Hua let Beigo Jinming bow? He hurriedly supported him with a smile and said, You and I are old friends. You are also helping me guard the blood steel. How can I blame you? Kong Jia and Kong Feng did not dare to be negligent. They hurriedly bowed and saluted. However, there was a trace of fear in their eyes. After the two finished saluting, Xiao Hua helped them up and said with a smile, I have already seen the situation of the two of you arresting the 3 Daoist sect cultivators. You two have justice in your hearts. Although the crimes committed by the 3 of them were not within the scope of your duties, you two still pursued them. I am deeply gratified. I will definitely not play favoritism just because they are Daoist sect cultivators. Moreover, in this old man's opinion, such a heartless person should be killed immediately to avoid any more trouble. Alright, I will let Daoist Xiao know. Kong Feng said respectfully, we are only constables and do not have the authority to make decisions. This matter can only be handed over to the Yamen for trial before being executed. Forget it, forget it. This is the matter of you Confucian cultivators. I do not care. Xiao Hua waved his hand and said with a smile. Then, he raised his hand and a large hand-light image fell on the blood steel. Shua. The blood steel was easily pulled out by the large hand. Senior, this is. Kong Jia was slightly bewildered and hurriedly asked. Xiao Hua looked at the cracks on the blood steel and the words on it and said, the Daoist sect in the world has already declined. Today, the hidden immortal sect opens. With me, Xiao Hua, in the world, who dares to let their disciples be bullied? After saying that, Xiao Hua looked at Beigo Jinming and said with a bit of self-mockery, thinking back, I was really arrogant. I actually wanted to fight against the entire Confucian sect with the strength of a 5th-grade origin energy. Today, I am standing at the peak of the 3 continents. Only now do I understand that the strength of our Daoist sect is not something that can be accomplished by one person. Even if I have such ambition, I do not need to erect a blood steel here. The steel that I want to erect should be in the hearts of the cultivators of the 3 continents. Following Xiao Hua's words, the large hand clenched and the blood steel that had been destroyed by countless people and restored by Beigo Jinming instantly turned into powder. Seeing the powder of the blood steel floating in the air, Beigo Jinming's heart immediately lightened. However, at the same time, there seemed to be a trace of melancholy in his heart. Wait for the 2 of them to return. After Xiao Hua destroyed the blood steel, he said to Kong Feng and Kong Jia, spread this matter to the cultivators of the world. My blood steel has been destroyed, but my heart will not change. If the disciples of the Daoist sect want to rise, they must constantly strive for self-improvement. At this point, Xiao Hua suddenly laughed involuntarily. Kong Feng and Kong Jia were only bailiffs of 2 small countries. How could they have the qualifications to spread the news on his behalf? Moreover, they were Confucian sect cultivators. Thus, he waved his hand and said, You wait, I am thinking too much. Yes, Junior understands. When Kong Feng and Kong Jia heard this, they let out a long breath. Kong Feng smiled and said, Junior will spread the truth of what happened in Seven Suns Temple. Senior, please rest assured. Xiao Hua nodded. After seeing the two of them salute, he flew away with Yu Feihu and the other two. Daoist Xiao. Without waiting for Xiao Hua to speak, Beigo Zhenming first raised his hand and saluted. This old man thanks Daoist Zhao's magnanimity on behalf of the Confucian sect. No need to be so polite. Xiao Hua said with a smile, Do Shanjun asked you to guard here. Isn't it because he is afraid that I will bring up old scores? Since I know your intentions, how can I really pursue the matter? Where is the magistrate? Hearing that Xiao Hua immediately guessed that it was Dou Shanjun, Beigo Zhenming was puzzled and asked curiously, after the Battle of Black Wind Mountain, he resigned from his position as the Academy's magistrate. After that, he hurriedly came back and told this old man about this matter. I have not seen him in the past few hundred years. The magistrate is a hidden expert. Xiao Hua naturally would not tell the truth. He only vaguely said, he has already returned to the place he should return to. Oh. That's good, that's good. Beigo Zhenming nodded and said with a smile, back then, this old man felt that this person was different, which was why I made an exception and hired him. It seems like this old man's foresight is still not bad. Of course. Xiao Hua echoed, the magistrate is also someone this old man admires. As he spoke, Xiao Hua raised his eyes and looked at the source of the sound of reading not far away. He said thoughtfully, Daoist Beigo, your academy is a little small. How is that an academy? Beigo Zhenming replied, that's just a school to enlighten young children. At this point, Beigo Zhenming sighed again and said, back then, this old man fought with Daoist Xiao and was deeply moved. When this old man gave the Imperial Academy scrolls to Daoist Xiao, this old man also revisited these scrolls. At that time, this old man suddenly realized that the true essence of Confucian cultivation is not to fight, but to help the world and educate people. Governing the world with etiquette and enlightening the souls of people with Confucianism is what this old man should do. Oh. Xiao Hua was a little surprised as he looked at Beigo Zhenming. Although what he said was not the true five qis unification, with Beigo Zhenming's strength, it was still a commendable thing to be able to calm down and search for the true essence of Confucian cultivation. Beigo Zhenming continued, therefore, this old man had the intention to retreat after the war. After the Bronze Pillar country was destroyed, this old man completely lived in seclusion and studied here. After that, this old man also gave out porridge and clothes for a few years. However, when I saw that the child beggars did not have the ability to support themselves and giving out porridge could only treat the symptoms, I opened a school to teach the child beggars how to read and write, to learn how to support themselves. At the same time, when these child beggars grew up, they opened workshops nearby and ran businesses, taking in even more beggars and using their strength to earn money, to achieve the effect of supporting themselves. Friends who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian, give it a recommendation vote, bookmark it, gift it, and thank you for all forms of support. Chapter 46-66. Soon after, Beigo Zhenming recounted everything he had done in the past few years. He didn't mention anything about the Blood Steel's destruction or the Seven Sons Monastery's provocation. Xiao Hua nodded his head inwardly and said, Fellow immortal Beigua, I really have to look at you in a new light. In the past few hundred years, fellow immortal Beigua has really undergone a complete transformation. There's no need for Daoist to praise me. Beigo Zhenming nodded and said, I was biased against the Daoist sects before, but after some self-reflection, I feel that the Daoist sects, the Confucian cultivators, and even the Buddhist sects are all cultivation methods of the human race. Although we have different Daos, we can help the world together. Thus, when this old man taught my students, I always instilled such thoughts into them. I even compared the Daoist sect, Confucian sect, and Buddhist sect's thoughts. It's a pity. This old man's foundation is too weak. After cultivating for several hundred years, I'm already at the end of my rope. I'm afraid I won't be able to live for much longer. Good. Xiaohua finally understood why Su Ji had specially instructed him to come to the Seven Sons Monastery. He clapped his hands and said, how could Dean not know about dying at dawn and dying at night? At this point, why would Dean still have any regrets? Haha, Beigua Zhenming laughed and said, since Daoist Xiao is here, this old man's biggest knot in my heart has been untied. Even if I don't have the heart to die at dawn and dying at night, this old man has no more regrets. It can't be, right? Xiaohua's tone changed as he rubbed his nose and said with a smile, this Seven Sons Monastery is so big, but there's no one to look after it. Wouldn't it be a waste? Isn't this Dean's regret? What does Daoist mean? Beigua Zhenming was a little confused as he looked around the Seven Sons Monastery. However, after a short while, he came to a realization and said, Daoist, this is the Seven Sons Monastery. Although Daoist's blood steel is no longer here, with Daoist's current reputation, who would dare to study here? However, Daoist can rest assured, this old man will instruct the people in the library to look after this place well. Of course, it would be best if Daoist could send a Fortune Gate disciple over to take over this Seven Sons Monastery. This place is too small. Xiaohua did not conceal his thoughts, laughing as he said, if my Fortune Gate wants to do something, the Xiao country can do it, there is no need to make arrangements here. How about this, immortal friend Beigua, I'll leave this place to you from now on. Beigua Zhenming said with some fear, you think too highly of me, spiritual master. This old man is already old, and I'm afraid my energy is limited. It's fine. Xiaohua raised his hand and took out a jade bottle, handing it over to Beigua Zhenming and said, this is the rejuvenation pill, after fellow immortal takes it, you'll know how powerful it is. After stuffing the rejuvenation pill into Beigua Zhenming's hand, Xiaohua looked at it again. He casually took out a large rock from the space and placed it at a corner of the Seven Sons Temple. He said, I'll inscribe some words for fellow immortal and use them as instructions for the school. I believe that even if Dao sect cultivators come, they won't make things difficult for fellow immortal. This. Beigua Zhenming looked at the rejuvenation pill in his hand, still unable to make a decision. Xiaohua did not make things difficult for him and said, this is just an idea of mine. I can't bear to let the Seven Sons Temple be abandoned, and I can't bear to let the Yu Province's child beggars have no books to read and no skills to survive. That's why I suggested this. Fellow immortal, you can think about it. If you feel that it's inappropriate, you can forget about it. After he finished speaking, Xiaohua activated his divine ability and raised his hand. Several golden lights fell on the huge rock, and after a series of light crackling sounds, several large characters were revealed on the huge rock. At the top, it said, for Beigua Zhenming. At the bottom, it said, Fortune Gates Xiaohua. In the middle, it said, unity, tension, seriousness, liveliness. Spiritual master. Beigua Zhenming was stunned and said in shock, this. What does this mean? Ha! Xiaohua's figure soared into the sky as he laughed, this is Su. Professor Su's school's motto when he was young. It's written here to commemorate him. This old man respectfully sends spiritual master Xiao off. Seeing Xiaohua fly away, Beigua Zhenming did not dare to delay. He stood in the Seven Sons Temple and respectfully sent Xiaohua off. When Xiaohua flew out of sight, a bitter smile appeared on his face. He looked at the words on the huge rock and shook his head, this old man took a lot of effort to get rid of this burden. I don't want to get into trouble again. However, when he turned around, he hesitated for a moment and looked in the direction of the school. He rubbed his chin and said, a few days ago, Chu Chong said that there were 10 child beggars in the solitary leaf country who had nowhere to go. If they could come to the Seven Suns Temple, it would be a good choice. Forget it, this old man should take this rejuvenation pill and see what kind of effects it has. Immediately, Bagua Jinming sat on the ground and opened the jade bottle. He placed the rejuvenation pill refined by the lightning immortal into his mouth. When Xiaohua flew out of the Seven Suns Temple, he felt relieved. He did not expect that the blood steel in the Seven Suns Temple would become a refuge for Daoist cultivators. If these Daoist cultivators were honest and upright, Xiaohua would not mind leaving the blood steel behind. However, after looking at Yu Feihu, Xiaohua knew that these Daoist cultivators would only come here to pay their respects. They would definitely not beg for protection. Moreover, the blood steel was just like Grandmaster Dao Shan's charity in the past. Although it could be seen as a good deed, it could not give people the ability to be self-sufficient. In the end, it would still be a declining Daoist sect. Moreover, the blood steel was not enough to support the Daoist sect's rise. It needed tens of thousands of Daoist cultivators like Xiaohua to stand out. Instead of leaving the blood steel as a burden to Bagua Jinming, it was better to leave the blood steel in the hearts of the cultivators of the three continents. It's exactly as Axian said. Xiaohua's figure stopped in midair. He was about to take out the immortal emperor's decree when he thought to himself, the rise of Taoism can't be achieved by just relying on this Xiao and the fortune gate. Moreover, the current Grand Mist ancestor seems to be unreliable. This Xiao has to make more preparations before ascending. Before Xiaohua could take out the immortal emperor's edict, a familiar gaze swept over from afar. Xiaohua stopped in confusion and looked in the direction where the gaze came from. Not long after, Axian's graceful figure arrived on the clouds. Moreover, wasn't the person beside Axian the Baihan? Axian. When Xiaohua saw Axian, he asked curiously, "Why are you here?" He. Axian covered her mouth and giggled, "I am afraid that you will kill all the Confucian cultivators in the Jade Rock Nation in a fit of anger. I specially came to persuade you." Xiaohua rolled his eyes and replied, "Do you think I am the Grand Mist ancestor? Killing people for no reason." Axian put down her hand and bowed towards Xiaohua in a very serious manner. "I thank Daoist Xiao for letting those rash Confucian cultivators off." Xiaohua pinched his chin and his eyes curved like the moon in the sky. With a deep smile, he replied in a helpless tone, "What can I do if I don't let them off? This Xiao is not only the Immortal Palace's Master Lei, but also the Immortal Palace's son-in-law in the future. How can this Xiao make things difficult for the princess's subordinates?" Contrary to Xiaohua's expectations, Axian's face only flushed red. She wasn't particularly shy. Instead, she glared at him and said, "It's good that you know. This is the disciple of the Confucian cultivators helping you grow. You are right to thank them." Ha! Xiaohua laughed loudly and raised his hand to grab Axian's hand. He said with a smile, "This is the ninth princess's tone." Seeing Xiaohua raise his hand, Baihan, who was at the side, already knew what to do and moved to the side. You know it's the ninth princess, yet you still dare to touch her." Axian glanced at Baihan from the corner of his eyes. When she had already dodged, he pursed his lips and pinched Xiaohua's hand. Although he said that, he didn't pull his hand out. "What are you doing here? Are you really afraid that I will lose my temper?" Xiaohua held Axian's hand and asked again. "On one hand, yes." Axian nodded. "Your blood steel was destroyed by others. I was really afraid that you would be angry. After all, this is your face. Presumably, when the news of you reaching the Mahayana realm spread, those who destroyed the blood steel would be scared out of their wits. They would be afraid that you would come to their door. The so-called face is the respect from the hearts of others. Xiaohua said with a smile, if you do well, you will naturally have face. How can a hypocritical flattery be considered face? That's your own idea. You have your own dignity, so you don't need to care about face. Xan said with a smile, but ordinary people live by face. I have destroyed the blood steel myself. Xiaohua told the story. You can announce this to the world and let those cultivators rest assured. That's strange. Hearing this, Xan said with some surprise, Xiaohua, you suddenly thought of coming to Seven Suns Temple? You have returned to the hidden immortal continent for a long time. This. Xiaohua thought for a while and told him about Su Ji's request. He also told him about Su Ji's matter briefly. When Xan heard this, he frowned again. After thinking for a while, he said, Xiaohua, at Dawn and Dusk Cliff, in Longevity Town, did the four great families and His Majesty ask about Senior Su? Xiaohua understood. He nodded with a smile and said, no. So. Xan said with a bitter smile, His Majesty doesn't know that Senior Su and Senior Xingyu have already left the hidden immortal continent. The main purpose of this Jade Pool meeting is probably these two seniors from the immortal world. It is also because His Majesty knows about the existence of these two immortals that he didn't take the plague of strange insects seriously. Now that I think about it, I'm afraid that's the case. Xiaohua secretly nodded and replied, but this is nothing. Let's just go and take a look. By the way, what else did you come here for? Nothing else. Xan smiled and hugged Xiaohua's arm. He said, I just want to accompany you to the banquet at Lingyun Side Palace. Chapter 46-67. Oh. Didn't you say you weren't going? You said something about going against the rules, why are you thinking about it now? Xiaohua was very surprised, but after a moment, he slapped his forehead and said, I understand, I'm afraid Empress Dowager missed you and issued an imperial decree. Xiaohua is indeed smart. Xan's other white finger tapped Xiaohua's forehead and laughed. That's great. Xiaohua said with a smile, with you accompanying me, I won't be afraid of getting lost. That's true. Hearing this, Xan also looked at Xiaohua strangely. I've never seen a supreme being cultivator who could lose himself. You didn't before, but you do now. Xiaohua replied with a smile, then turned around and asked Baihen, when did you return? Xiaohua's question was extremely meaningless. Rather than saying it was a question, it was better to say it was to cover up the awkwardness of him and Xan being spied on by others. Baihen naturally didn't dare to be negligent, he hurriedly flew over and said, reporting to Sect Master, Disciple just returned and was kowtowing to Her Highness when Empress Dowager issued an imperial decree. Disciple originally didn't want to come, but Her Highness said Disciple had meritorious service, and Empress Dowager's imperial decree also mentioned Disciple, allowing Disciple to follow to Lingyun Side Palace. All right, then come with us. Xiaohua smiled and nodded. Then, the two sweetly urged their figures and rushed into the 9 heavens. Baihen followed closely behind, flying towards the earth, fire, wind, lightning. After flying for half an hour, astral winds appeared high in the sky. Xan stopped and pulled her arm out of Xiaohua's and said with a smile, Xiaohua, Lingyun Side Palace isn't within the Immortal Palace. I don't know where His Majesty has placed it, so I can only open His Majesty's Imperial Decree and Empress Dowager's Imperial Decree and let the patrol envoy lead the way. Oh. Lingyun Side Palace isn't within the Immortal Palace. Xiaohua asked curiously, then why did His Majesty dare to invite the 4 great clans again? Xan explained, the Immortal Palace and Hidden Immortal Continent's time is different. A day in the Immortal Palace hides an immortal for a year. If His Majesty is in charge of the affairs in Lingyunside Palace, how can he command the Immortal Palace troops to resist the strange insects? Of course, if it was an emergency, His Majesty had other ways to deal with it. However, there was no need to be so anxious this time. His Majesty might have used the celestial imperial artifact of the Heavenly Court to set up the Lingyunside Palace outside the Immortal Palace. As long as the immortal imperial equipment is not too far away from the Immortal Palace, His Majesty's golden throne can still be activated. So that's how it is. Xiaohua nodded. The Immortal Palace really has a lot of secrets. If you hadn't told me, I really wouldn't have known. Your fortune gate has a lot of secrets. Ah. The corners of Xian's mouth curled up, and she said with a smile, I've heard that there are stories about the 10 elders of the sect. I've been counting them, but I still don't know who they are. Do you want to know? Xiaohua rolled his eyes and said eloquently, if you want to know, just say it. If you don't say it, how would I know you want to know? Although you look at me with sincerity, you still have to tell me what you want to know. Do you really want to know? Then let me tell you. Do you really want to know? Don't tell me you really want to know. Xian was stunned when she heard this, and then she laughed until she swayed back and forth. When tears came out of her eyes, she only said one word, no. Beside her, Baitan also laughed when she heard this, but she didn't dare to be rude like Xian. She covered her mouth and stomach, holding it in really hard. Alright, since you don't want to know, then I don't need to tell you. Xiaohua shrugged, and replied somewhat innocently, you said you don't want to know, it's not that I don't want to tell you. Xiaolang, do you need to eat a spirit fruit to moisten your throat? As Xian said this, she also pretended to take out a red spirit fruit from her Qinquan bag and handed it to Xiaohua. That. Xiaohua didn't look at the spirit fruit, but looked at Xian's red lips. He swallowed his saliva and said in a low voice, I should moisten my throat. Humph, don't you dare. Xian curled her lips and said, don't even think about it now. As she said this, Xian stuffed the spirit fruit into Xiaohua's mouth, and without waiting for Xiaohua to do anything, she raised her hand, and a ball of multicolored light appeared from her hand. Within the multicolored light, a brocade that was several feet in size appeared. This brocade was gold in color, and a lifelike phoenix was embroidered on it. Around the phoenix were many armor inscriptions, and these armor inscriptions were like 100 birds flying around the phoenix. A moment later, a faintly discernible cry sounded from the brocade, and the phoenix flapped its wings and flew out from the multicolored light. Boom boom boom. Hundreds of vast chi pillars appeared from the void and fell into the phoenix's illusory figure. Although the vast chi pillars were only the size of a thumb, in a few breaths, the phoenix grew to about 100 feet in size. As the phoenix spread its wings, the illusory figure crashed into the earth, fire, wind, and lightning and disappeared. Interesting. Xiaohua faintly smiled and also took out a golden brocade from his bosom. This brocade's luster and multicolored light was no different from a new one. However, a dragon shape rushed out from it. This dragon shape was different from a real dragon. There were no dragon scales on its body, only an extremely large amount of inscriptions flowing within the dragon shape. Moreover, around the dragon shape, there were also images of hundreds of beasts prostrating themselves on the ground and worshipping it. Roar! The dragon shape roared several times, and crashed into the earth, fire, wind, and lightning. Unlike the phoenix, after the dragon shape passed, the earth, fire, wind, and lightning didn't close. Instead, a colorful passage that looked like a dragon pattern appeared, and a whistling wind blew out from this passage. Darling Xiao. Seeing the passage appear, Xian hurriedly whispered, where are the Thunder Immortal and the Celestial Being? If possible, please ask them to show themselves first, and wait until we reach the Lingyun Side Palace to let them come out. It's not very polite. Moreover, it's not very respectful to them. You're right, we should do that. Xiaohua nodded in agreement, and took out the Kunlun mirror. Under the light, Thunder Immortal and the Celestial Being flew out, and after greeting Xan, they stood in midair. Oh right. Thunder Immortal looked at Xan and asked, Princess Xan, I have a question to ask. Immortal, please ask. Xan hurriedly asked. Is the Jade Pool in the Lingyun Side Palace? Thunder Immortal asked, I know that we are going to the Lingyun Side Palace, but I didn't know that we have to participate in the Jade Pool gathering, so I asked. Oh, it's like this. Xan smiled and explained, the Jade Pool is different from the Jade Mountain. The Jade Pool is an immortal imperial equipment of Empress Dowager, and after it is activated, it will reveal a strange realm of the heavenly court. The scenery in this strange realm is extremely beautiful, and rarely seen in the world. Therefore, if there is an important banquet that requires Empress Dowager to appear, Empress Dowager will use the Jade Pool to entertain guests. As time passed, it became known as the Jade Pool Gathering. His Majesty is currently in the Lingyun Side Palace, so as long as Empress Dowager shows the Jade Pool in the Lingyun Side Palace, wouldn't it be the Jade Pool Gathering? Oh, I see. The Celestial Being curled his lips and shouted, isn't this the so-called, inviting the monarch into a trap? His Majesty and Empress Dowager are the leaders of Confucian cultivators, so they definitely wouldn't do this. Xan pursed her lips and smiled. In just a few minutes, the sound of gongs and drums came from the passageway, and then a group of immortal soldiers and immortal generals flew out from the passageway. After flying out, they didn't go forward, but lined up in front of the passageway, and the one who flew out behind them was actually Taibai Jinxing. Xan had already pulled her hand out of Xiaohua's palm, and now seeing Taibai Jinxing fly out, she was slightly surprised. After she whispered a few words to Xiaohua, Taibai Jinxing had already flown to Xiaohua. Taibai Jinxing swung his horsetail whisk, cupped his hands and saluted, Greetings, Master Xiaolei. Greetings, Thunderbolt Immortal and Senior Celestial Being. Xiaohua and the others didn't dare to be negligent, and hurriedly went forward to return the salute. After exchanging a few pleasantries, Taibai Jinxing raised his head with a smile and looked at Xan, but he didn't go forward. Instead, he said, Earlier, I left in a hurry at Longevity Town, so I didn't have time to congratulate the 9th princess. Today, I have the important task of welcoming Master Xiaolei, so it's inconvenient for me to greet you. When the 9th princess's big day comes, I'll prepare a big gift to congratulate the 9th princess. Lord Taibai Jinxing, you're too polite. Xan replied with a smile, You're an important minister of the Immortal Palace, so there's no need for formalities. When the time comes, you'll just have to be there to congratulate me. Boom boom. While the two were talking, the earth, fire, wind, and Thunder Palace to their left let out another roaring sound. A cloud flew down like a waterfall, and a flying phoenix palanquin surrounded by dozens of women in palace attire flew out from the cloud. Seeing the flying phoenix palanquin appear, Xan and Bai Han's eyes were filled with surprise, and they looked at each other. Greetings, 9th princess. The dozens of women flew in front of Xan, and all of them knelt on the cloud, and said in unison. Xan waved her hand, and said indifferently, You may rise. Yes, Your Highness. The group of women stood up, and shouted again, Your Highness, please get on the palanquin. All right. Xan nodded thoughtfully, and then said to Xiaohua, I'll take my leave first. See you at the Lingyun Side Palace. Farewell, ninth princess. Xiao Hua said with a smile, and cupped his hands. You may rise. Axian covered her mouth and smiled, and her figure landed on the flying phoenix palanquin. Bai and also hurriedly flew to the side of the flying phoenix palanquin. A group of palace maids lifted the palanquin, and the cloud under their feet flew backward into the earth, fire, wind, and thunder palace. The immortal soldiers and immortal generals at the side also bowed, and there was no lack of etiquette. After Axian and the others disappeared into the earth, fire, wind, and thunder palace, Taibai Jinxing said with a smile, Master Xiao Lei, please don't blame us. This is the etiquette of our Confucian cultivators. With the ninth princess here, we need to send her back to the palace first. Don't blame us, don't blame us. Xiao Hua saw that Axian was valued by the immortal palace, so how could he blame her, and replied with a wave of his hand. After waiting for a while, Taibai Jinxing waved his horsetail whisk, and shouted, bring the immortal palace's heavenly horses over. Yes, my lord. The group of immortal soldiers replied, and brought over 3 heavenly horses from not far away. The heavenly horses were more than 100 feet long, and their bodies emitted a milky white brilliance. Within the brilliance, countless strands of noble qi condensed into the shape of strips and danced like little snakes. Under the heavenly horses, lily-like clouds quietly bloomed as the horses' hooves landed. When the 3 heavenly horses flew in front of Xiao Hua and the others, Taibai Jinxing raised his hand with a smile, and said, Master Xiao Lei, Thunder Immortal, immortal friend heavenly man, please. Thank you, immortal friend. Xiao Hua knew that this was the immortal palace's etiquette, and no longer modestly declined. He raised his hand to signal, and floated onto a heavenly horse. Soon after, Thunder Immortal and Heavenly Man also each landed on a heavenly horse. Return to the Lingyun Side Palace. Taibai Jinxing stepped on a cloud, and flew to the side of Xiao Hua and the others, and ordered. Yes, my lord. Following the group of immortal soldiers and immortal generals' reply, everyone urged their figures to enter the passage. When the last immortal soldier's figure disappeared, the entire passage slowly shrunk, and disappeared in a moment. The passage with dragon patterns seemed to be very long. Xiao Hua rode on the heavenly horse, and looked at the layers of earth, fire, wind, and lightning rushing behind him like flowing water, and couldn't help but be somewhat stunned. After a full meal's worth of time, layers of multicolored light appeared in front of the passage, and it was obvious that they had already reached the end. Xiao Hua looked at Taibai Jinxing, and said in a low voice, Immortal friend, previously when I took out His Majesty's Imperial Edict, it seemed that in less than half a cup of tea's time, Immortal friend appeared. Could it be that Immortal friend didn't come from the Lingyun Side Palace? Taibai Jinxing said with a smile, of course. Master Xiao Hua is the distinguished guest of this Jade Pool meeting. This old man has already been waiting in the nearby earth, fire, wind, and lightning. I'll have to trouble you, immortal friend. Xiao Hua somewhat bitterly smiled, and cupped his hands. It's nothing. This old man's mission this time is to invite Master Xiao Hua to the Lingyun Side Palace, waiting for a moment. Is really nothing. Taibai Jinxing didn't hide his attitude, and reminded, I only hope that Master Xiao Hua can place the stability of the world as the most important thing, and make a good choice. And, rest assured, immortal friend. Xiao Hua understood Taibai Jinxing's meaning, and replied, perhaps His Majesty is wrong in many ways, but if he thinks about the common people of the world, this Xiao won't oppose him. Then this old man can rest assured. Taibai Jinxing smiled and nodded. As the heavenly horse flew out of the passage, Xiao Hua's eyes unconsciously lit up. He saw that this was a huge space, and when he scanned it with his divine sense, he actually couldn't see the end of it. The entire space was surrounded by a starry sky, and in the center of the space, there was a huge palace towering majestically. At this moment, the style of this palace wasn't very clear, and Xiaohua could only see that around the palace, there were millions of vast chi pillars rushing in from the starry sky, entering the space. When these vast chi neared the palace, they turned into multicolored clouds, and these clouds condensed together, and like a huge dragon, they rushed into the palace with a roar. That huge palace emitted a glaring brilliance, illuminating the entire space. Along with the brilliance filling the entire space, there was also a mighty and surging aura. Everyone who entered the space couldn't help but have a kind of longing in their heart, and even a kind of desire to worship. His Majesty is really generous. Xiaohua looked at the palace, then retracted his gaze, and said to Taibai Jinxing. Taibai Jinxing slightly smiled, and replied, "This Jade Pool meeting is the gathering of the supreme experts of the three continents. Thunder Temple, Great Sage Hall, and Dragon Island are all present. How could His Majesty be negligent?" "Oh. Dragon Island is also coming to the Dragon Clan. Is it the Great Elder, or the Second Elder?" Xiaohua asked with a little surprise. Taibai Jinxing thought for a moment, then replied, "This old man doesn't dare to make wild guesses. Previously, the Great Elder came, and the Second Elder also came." Xiaohua knew that Taibai Jinxing had been waiting in the Earth Fire Wind Lightning Palace all along, and presumably, he didn't know who would come to the Immortal Palace, so he didn't ask any more. The Pegasus flew for another half a cup of tea's time, and that huge palace was finally near. Only now did Xiaohua see it clearly. This was an incomparably huge palace, like a lofty mountain. What welcomed Xiaohua was a huge palace door, and at this moment, the palace door was tightly shut, and above the palace door was a vermilion red. When one's gaze fell on this vermilion red, a boundless and imposing aura was emitted from within, and could instantly drown one's gaze. Within the vermilion red that was like a vast ocean, there were 81 golden stars nailed within. These stars were arranged neatly, and looked like a decoration, but between the stars, cryptic fluctuations were faintly revealed. It was clearly a mysterious defensive formation. Above the door of the palace, there was another 9-colored ray of light. Above the ray of light, there were several flamboyant words, Lingyun Side Palace. Waves of human race's destiny turned into dragons and phoenixes, wantonly swimming around these 4 large words. Xiaohua's gaze moved away from the palace door, and landed on the immortal soldiers and generals standing neatly outside the palace door. These immortal generals were all 7th or 8th grade origin energy, and each of them was wearing armor and holding weapons in their hands. An indescribable solemn and murderous aura was emitted from their bodies, enveloping the entire palace door. Looking at these, Xiaohua sighed. The Immortal Palace's foundation is really hard to find in this world. Just the Lingyun Side Palace alone is already so impressive. I'm afraid that my fortune gate won't be able to catch up in a short time. Just as he was thinking, those immortal soldiers and generals standing neatly suddenly became chaotic, and some immortal generals hurriedly flew to the side of the palace door. When Xiaohua's divine sense swept over, he immediately showed a kind of surprise, and he looked at Taibai Jinxing with some confusion, while Taibai Jinxing's brows were tightly knitted, and he also looked in that direction. "Io, Daoist Xiao is here." Xiaohua's divine sense swept over, and the Grand Mist Ancestor's voice sounded as if a heavy burden had been lifted off his shoulders. "Quickly move aside, this old man wants to participate in the Jade Lake gathering with Daoist Xiao." Cough cough. Seeing this, Taibai Jinxing coughed twice, and ordered, "You all move aside." "Yes, Lord." The group of immortal soldiers holding weapons surrounding the Grand Mist Ancestor all moved aside, but they still surrounded the Grand Mist Ancestor with caution. Seeing that the immortal soldiers and generals had moved aside, the Grand Mist Ancestor sneered several times, and flew in front of Xiaohua with Anya Z and Daoist Rider Crane. He raised his hand and saluted, "Daoist Xiao, this time, the alien insects are very powerful. This old man also burned with anxiety when I received the news, and wanted to come up with a plan for the survival of the human race in the three mainlands. But when this old man heard that the Immortal Palace was holding the Jade Lake gathering here, they didn't invite this old man. Although this old man's sky-bearing palace has just been built, it is still a part of the Tao Gate strength, so this old man chased here, wanting to work together with Daoist Shao for the sake of the Tao Gate. However, the Immortal Palace bullied the Tao Gate's weak strength, and actually didn't allow this old man to enter the Lingyun side palace. Daoist Shao, this old man's heart can be seen by the heaven and earth. You must make the decision for the Tao Gate. Looking at the Grand Mist Ancestor's serious appearance, Xiaohua sneered in his heart. Although he didn't like to fight and scheme, he also didn't like to be used as a stepping stone by others. After patiently waiting for the Grand Mist Ancestor to finish speaking, he indifferently replied, "Fellow Daoist Grand Mist, the Jade Lake Gathering is a banquet organized by Immortal Emperor Go Qin. Who he invites and who he doesn't invite, this Shao can't decide. Moreover, whether or not to participate in the Jade Lake Gathering, whether or not you have the strength to fight the alien insects, it has nothing to do with your own strength, whether you look down on the Tao Gate or not." Without waiting for Xiaohua to finish speaking, the Grand Mist Ancestor said with a surprised expression, "You. Are you Daoist Shao? Could it be that you've forgotten? You once erected a blood stele in the Seven Suns Temple. The world's Tao Gate is declining early, the hidden immortal Tao Gate is opening today, with me, Xiaohua, in this world, who dares to bully and humiliate disciples." These words are known to all Tao Gate cultivators. Did you forget Daoist Zhao's order? Hearing these words, Xiaohua's expression became even colder. He indifferently replied, "This Shao naturally remembers the words that this Shao said. However, this Shao has already destroyed the blood stele. This Xiaohua wants to carve these words into the hearts of every cultivator." "Ah! You!" The Grand Mist Ancestor was truly shocked. He didn't expect Xiaohua to actually destroy the blood stele. He was speechless for a moment. At this time, Xiaohua opened his mouth again. "However, since you said that you're a Tao Gate cultivator, this Shao will ask for you." Finished speaking, Xiaohua turned his head and asked Taibai Jinxing, "Fellow Daoist, I wonder if His Majesty has any special criteria for inviting people. After all, fellow Daoist Grand Mist is also a member of our Tao Gate. He's willing to cooperate with the Immortal Palace to fight against the strange insects. His Majesty shouldn't reject him, right?" Taibai Jinxing was slightly stunned, then as if he thought of something, a smile appeared on his face. He said, "Master Xiao Lei, His Majesty invited Empress to hold the Jade Pool meeting in the Lingyun Side Hall this time. It's naturally different from before. Because this time, the main focus is to fight against the strange insects, the divine ability of an ordinary cultivator. In front of the billions of strange insects, is already insignificant. Therefore, this old servant heard from His Majesty that the people invited by His Majesty not only have to be the top experts of the three continents, but also supreme experts. In other words, the supreme experts of various sects. The so-called supremacy of a supreme being referred to an expert who was respected by the masses. In other words, the experts of the top forces in the three continents and 4 seas. As for the various sects, naturally, they are the Confucian cultivators, Buddhist sect, Tao Gate, Demon race, and Dragon race. At this point, Taibai Jinxing's gaze swept over the Emperor's robe on Grand Mist Ancestor's body, then landed on Grand Mist Ancestor's face, and he said with a smile, "The elders of the Dragon Island controlled the Dragon Island, and even the Dragon Palaces of the 3 seas have to listen to their orders. They are qualified to participate in this Jade Pool meeting. The Thunder Temple's 3 Buddhist lords control the past, present, and future of the Buddhist sect, and the billions of Buddhist disciples in the Pure Land world listen to them. They are qualified to participate in this Jade Pool meeting. The Great Sage Temple's 7 great sages control the 1,000 demons' holy realm and millions of demon holy realm. No demon dares to disobey their orders. They are qualified to participate in this Jade Pool meeting. Daoist Xiaohua, Daoist Xiao, Lightning Daoist, and Senior Celestial Being are in charge of the Fortune Gate, and their millions of disciples have shaken the 3 continents. Wherever the Iron Blood battle team passes, the 4 aristocratic families are defeated, the 1,000 demons' holy realm, and even the dragon palaces of the 4 seas have to retreat. Fellow Daoist Grand Mist, what about you? Your sky-bearing palace. Although this old man has heard of its name, I have never heard of its scale or the strength of its disciples. Even more so, I don't know what role the sky-bearing palace can play in resisting the alien insects. You. What qualifications do you have to participate? Although venerable realm experts can wear emperor's robes, those who can wear emperor's robes are not necessarily venerable realm experts. Tai Bai Jinxing didn't leave any face for the Grand Mist Ancestor. He was very different from the Longevity Town. In Tai Bai Jinxing's eyes, rather than calling Xiaohua the Fortune Gate's sect master, it would be better to call him the Immortal Palace's lightning master. Rather than calling him the Immortal Palace's lightning master, it would be better to call him the Immortal Palace's son-in-law. The conversation between Xayan and Xiaohua outside the Earth Fire Wind Lightning Gate had made Tai Bai Jinxing feel closer to Xiaohua. The Grand Mist Ancestor's face turned ugly, but it only lasted for a moment. He looked at Xiaohua and said word by word, Daoist Xiao, you heard Tai Bai Jinxing's words. He said that this old man doesn't have the qualifications to participate in the Jade Lake Gathering. This is not a reason, this is clearly an excuse. They don't dare to let this old man participate in the Jade Lake Gathering. Daoist Xiao, this old man hasn't known you for a long time, but I'm sure you've heard of this old man's name on the hidden immortal continent. Long before this old man was suppressed, this old man has been fighting for the rise of my Dao Gate. The things I've done before are too many to count. Although this old man didn't erect the blood steel, this old man has also wreaked havoc in the Immortal Palace and killed countless immortal soldiers and immortal generals. After this old man escaped, this old man saw the struggle of the Dao Gate's younger generation and saw Daoist Zhao's efforts. Therefore, this old man used Daoist Zhao's deeds to motivate himself. Now, this old man's cultivation may not be as high as Daoist Zhao's, and my sky-bearing palace may not be as strong as the Fortune Gate, but this old man is also a member of the Dao Gate, a member of the 3 mainlands human race. The rise and fall of a country is everyone's responsibility, so why can't this old man contribute to the survival of the 3 mainlands? This old man earnestly requests Daoist Xiao that the Dao Gate is a family, so don't put the differences between the sects in your eyes. Just treat this old man as a member of the Dao Gate and allow this old man to follow Daoist Xiao to participate in the Jade Lake Gathering. Listening to the Grand Mist Ancestor's dignified words, if Xiaohua didn't know about Prince Lan's matter, he might have softened his heart and agreed. Unfortunately, Xiaohua had seen through the Grand Mist Ancestor's ruthless side and knew that what he said was completely different from what he thought in his heart. Therefore, he pondered for a moment and nodded, Daoist Grand Mist Ancestor is right. You're a member of my Dao Gate, and like this old man, you're also working hard for the rise of my Dao Gate. This Jade Lake Gathering is very important to my Dao Gate, so this old man must abandon all prejudices and scruples, and be honest with Daoist Grand Mist Ancestor and participate in the Jade Lake Gathering with Daoist Grand Mist Ancestor. Good. The Grand Mist Ancestor clapped his hands and said, Daoist Xiao is right. You and I are both members of the Dao Gate, so how can we separate ourselves? Good. Xiaohua clapped his hands and said, since Daoist Grand Mist Ancestor agrees with this old man, then. Daoist Grand Mist Ancestor, please tell this old man where the Sky-Bearing Hall is, how many disciples there are in the Sky-Bearing Hall, and how many experts like Daoist Rider Crane and Inyezi there are. Don't worry, this old man will definitely not tell a single word to the Immortal Palace. Ah. The Grand Mist Ancestor was originally happy, but when he heard Xiao Hua's words, he was stunned. Xiao Hua ignored the Grand Mist Ancestor and turned to Tai Bai Jinxing. Daoist friend, you must have information about my fortune gate, right? A smile appeared on Tai Bai Jinxing's face as he nodded and said, of course, the fortune gate is like the sun in the sky, how can my immortal palace not have information about the fortune gate? As he said that, Tai Bai Jinxing took out a jade eye ring and handed it over to Xiao Hua. After Xiao Hua received the jade eye ring, he activated the eye clear technique and passed it to the Grand Mist Ancestor, saying, this is all the information about my fortune gate, please keep it well. The Grand Mist Ancestor was flustered and exasperated. He had Prince Lan as his spy, so he knew more than the Immortal Palace. How could he put Tai Bai Jinxing's jade eye ring in his eyes? Moreover, he also knew that once he accepted this jade eyes, which was even more useless than a chicken rib, he would have to tell Xiao Hua everything about the sky-bearing palace hall. Of course, he could hide it, but if he hid too much, Xiao Hua was not a fool. How could he believe him? Seeing that the Grand Mist Ancestor did not accept the jade eye ring, Xiao Hua raised his eyebrows and asked in confusion, what's going on? Daoist Grand Mist Ancestor, didn't you say that you wanted to be honest with me? This is information about my fortune gate, does Daoist friend not need it? The Grand Mist Ancestor remained silent, and Daoist Rider Crane couldn't help but ask, Daoist Xiao, what do you mean by this? Could it be that you don't trust my sky-bearing hole? Shut up. Before Xiao Hua could say anything, the lightning Daoist roared, who do you think you are? Is there a place for you to speak? My sect master gave all the information about the fortune gate to your sky-bearing hall because he doesn't trust you. First Elder Sect Master. Not to mention Daoist Rider Crane, even Tai Bai Jinxing was stunned. Even Grand Mist Ancestor was shocked. His heart, which had been struggling to make a decision, finally made a decision. Besides, who the hell do you think you are? I've never seen you before, so why should I trust you? The lightning Daoist didn't give Daoist Rider Crane any face, and he sneered, if you want my fortune gate to protect you, you can join my fortune gate. Using a dog fart sky-bearing hall to fool people, do you think I'm a fool? Hee hee. The Grand Mist Ancestor chuckled, and he looked at the lightning Daoist and asked, if Daoist Xiao is the fortune gate sect master, then I presume the lightning Daoist is the second sect master. What's wrong? I'm the second sect master. With my strength, can't I be the second sect master? The lightning Daoist glanced at the Grand Mist Ancestor and replied arrogantly. Hearing the lightning Daoist's words, the Grand Mist Ancestor sneered in his heart. He already understood why Xiao Hua called himself the sect master. Wasn't he trying to unify the three mainlands? The Grand Mist Ancestor had carefully studied Xiao Hua's actions, and he had come to a conclusion. Xiao Hua was a rare Dao sect cultivator, but he was definitely not a qualified Dao sect leader. Not to mention that he was indecisive and didn't know how to win over people's hearts, just the fact that he couldn't kill decisively meant that he couldn't be compared to him. The Longevity Town. Rather than saying that the Grand Mist Ancestor was using Xiao Hua's indecisiveness to barge into the three mainland supreme experts, it was more accurate to say that he was taking a risk to test Xiao Hua. The Grand Mist Ancestor knew that if he was in Xiao Hua's shoes, he definitely wouldn't allow two Dao Gates voices to exist in the Longevity Town. But the result was exactly the same as the Grand Mist Ancestor's expectations. Xiao Hua had indeed allowed him to speak, and he had even allowed him to say a lot of things that were disgraceful to Xiao Hua. The most important thing was that Xiao Hua didn't make a move against him. As for the Jade Lake's gathering, the Grand Mist Ancestor understood it better than Xiao Hua. This was the best opportunity for him and his sky-bearing hall to stand out. He didn't receive the Immortal Palace's invitation, so he didn't have the opportunity to participate. But he didn't go to the Fortune Gate to discuss with Xiao Hua. Instead, he went to the Soaring Cloud Side Hall's entrance to block Xiao Hua's way and force him to agree. Of course, the consequences of forcing Xiao Hua to agree, as well as other possible scenarios, were already in his mind. Bringing out the sky-bearing hall structure, disciples, and so on was also within his expectations. Now that he heard the lightning Taoist reveal that Xiao Hua was the Fortune Gate's first master, the Grand Mist Ancestor felt a sense of crisis. He knew that if he couldn't enter the Jade Lake's gathering today, he wouldn't be able to occupy a position among the 4 superpowers. He was afraid that he wouldn't have the chance to compete with Xiao Hua in the future. So, while his mind was spinning, the Grand Mist Ancestor opened his mouth again. He looked at the celestial being and laughed. So, fellow celestial being is the 3rd master. What does it have to do with you whether I am the 3rd master or the 8th master? The celestial being coldly replied, completely ignoring the Grand Mist Ancestor. Hee. The Grand Mist Ancestor didn't take the celestial being's 8th master seriously. He laughed and received Xiao Hua's jade eye. Then, he took out a jade eye and handed it to Xiao Hua. Taoist Xiao, this is something this old man specially prepared for Taoist. Taoist will know when he sees it. Oh. Is that so? Xiao Hua raised his eyebrows and laughed. People often say that a wise man submits to circumstances. Fellow Taoist Grand Mist is indeed an ambitious and ruthless person. How could the Grand Mist Ancestor not understand Xiao Hua's sarcasm? However, this sarcasm was too far away from his grand plan. How could he care about it? Xiao Hua took the jade eye and looked at it. His expression changed slightly, and then he looked at the Grand Mist Ancestor from head to toe. He said indifferently, this Xiao really didn't expect fellow Taoist to have such great strength. If that's the case, can the Fortune Gate and Sky-Bearing Palace form an alliance? The Grand Mist Ancestor raised his hand and looked at Xiao Hua with a smile. He had taken out his biggest trump card, and he didn't think that Xiao Hua would refuse. Alliance? Who knew that Xiao Hua looked at the Grand Mist Ancestor's hand in a daze and asked curiously, you and I are both from the same sept, and we are brothers. Has fellow Taoist ever seen brothers form an alliance? The Grand Mist Ancestor was extremely embarrassed, and he didn't know how to answer. The 3 continents are so big, and there are only 2 sects, the Fortune Gate and the Sky-Bearing Palace. There is no need to form an alliance. Xiao Hua laughed and said, what this Xiao means is, since fellow Taoist wants to participate in the Jade Lake meeting, does fellow Taoist want to join under the Fortune Gate, or participate under the Sky-Bearing Palace's name? If you want to use the Sky-Bearing Palace's name, there is no harm in giving this jade eye to the Immortal Palace. Various forces are needed to resist the alien insects, and I think the Immortal Emperor will definitely want the Sky-Bearing Palace to become a force and ally with the Immortal Palace to resist the foreign enemies. Fuck, who said that this Xiao Hua is too honest and doesn't know how to be flexible? The Grand Mist Ancestor gritted his teeth so hard that his teeth were about to shatter. This bastard just looked at the jade pupils, and threw his words to the side. He even wants to pull this old man's sky-bearing hall to his Fortune Gate. His appetite is really big. Isn't he afraid of dying from overeating? This old man won't let you have your way. This old man would rather ally with the Immortal Palace than to join the Fortune Gate. At this time, the Grand Mist Ancestor seemed to have forgotten that he was the one who said to Xiao Hua that all the sects under the heavens were one family. Of course, the Grand Mist Ancestor couldn't reveal his thoughts. After pondering for a while, he said in a dignified tone, Taoist Xiao is right. The Fortune Gate already has 3 masters, and even if this old man goes to the Fortune Gate, this old man won't be able to help much. This old man's sky-bearing palace should participate in the Jade Lake meeting as an independent sect. And, since fellow Daoist has made a decision, then it's easy to handle. Xiao Hua smiled faintly when he saw the Grand Mist Ancestor's hand reaching into his chest as if he was about to take out another jade eye. Xiao Hua raised his hand and passed the jade eye to Tai Bai Jinxing as he said, "It's not good for this Xiao to take out the sky-bearing palace's jade eye again. Why don't you pass it to the Immortal Palace?" Seeing that Xiao Hua had casually tossed the jade eye pearl to Tai Bai Jinxing as if he was tossing a blade of grass, the Grand Mist Ancestor felt even more embarrassed and angry. His hand, which was in his bosom, froze in place, feeling extremely awkward. He looked at Tai Bai Jinxing again and took the jade eye. His clear eyes swept over it, and he exclaimed, "What a big sky-bearing palace ah!" This old man really didn't expect that fellow Daoist Grand Mist would be so generous under the eyes of my immortal palace. This old man has really learned a lot. Hearing Tai Bai Jinxing's exaggerated tone, how could the Grand Mist Ancestor not know that there was a hidden meaning in his words? Who knew if there would be another but in a while? Thus, the Grand Mist Ancestor decided to endure hardships and wait for Tai Bai Jinxing's humiliation. Sure enough, Tai Bai Jinxing changed the topic and cupped his hands apologetically, "But this matter is of great importance. This old man has no authority to make a decision. I must ask for the Immortal Emperor's decree. If fellow Daoist Grand Mist is willing, can you wait here for a while?" Of course, of course. Since it had come to this, how could the Grand Mist Ancestor say no? A smile appeared on his face as he cupped his hands and said, "I'll have to trouble fellow Daoist with this matter." "No problem." Tai Bai Jinxing placed the jade eye into his sleeve and said respectfully to Xiao Hua, "Daoist Xiao, please." N. Xiao Hua nodded and urged the Pegasus to fly towards the entrance of the Lingyun side hall. Before the Pegasus landed on the stairs, a thunderous sound came from the Lingyun side hall. Boom, boom, boom. 81 streaks of 5-colored clouds rushed out from the entrance of the Lingyun side hall and turned into 81 dragons dancing in the sky. Golden light flashed as the vermilion door slowly opened. A solemn aura that seemed to split heaven and earth gushed out from the door. A loud voice resounded in the entire space, "Fortune Gate's first master Xiao Hua, Daoist Xiao Hua, Fortune Gate's second master Lightning Daoist, Fortune Gate's third master Heavenly Being has arrived. Ha, Dragon Master Xiao, when I heard that you were coming to the Immortal Palace, this old man had been waiting for you for a long time. I didn't expect you to be so patient, insisting on waiting for the Jade Lake meeting to start before coming." Just as the welcoming voice fell, another loud voice resounded in the music. Following this voice, a huge dragon that could break through the entrance of the Lingyun side hall appeared. Wasn't this the Dragon Island's second elder, AoE? Chapter 4668. Damn it, damn it, damn it. Tai Bai Jinxing wasn't the only one who was surprised. Even the Grand Mist Ancestor's eyes flashed with extreme jealousy. He cursed in his heart, how can an invited guest rush to greet someone before the Immortal Emperor? If the Dragon Island didn't value Xiao Hua, why would the second elder of the Dragon Island personally appear? Greetings, Dragon Master Xiao. A golden light flashed behind AoE as the golden-winged ping flew out and laughed. There was another giant dragon beside him. Wasn't that the profound armored pentahorn dragon? Even though the pentahorn dragon had a trace of disdain on his face, he didn't hesitate and said, "The famous Dragon Master Xiao is actually like this. This saint has long heard about it, but after seeing it today, I'm still in awe of Dragon Master's temperament. Damn it, isn't it just the West Sea Dragon Palace? Xiao Hua wasn't surprised when the golden-winged ping came out. However, when he saw Aoe and the Pentahorn dragon, he immediately understood that Jiang Hong's killing of the West Sea had attracted the attention of the Dragon Island. As expected, the Dragon King of the Eastern Sea, Ao Qian, appeared behind the profound armored Pentahorn dragon. However, Ao Qian bowed and said, "Greetings, Dragon Master Xiao. I didn't know that the Buddha of Xuanji Mausoleum was actually your nephew. I apologize for my lack of manners." After Ao Feng obtained the scriptures from the Nirvana paradise, he mentioned to me many times how the Buddha of Xuanji Mausoleum had taken care of him along the way. This humble Taoist greets fellow immortals. Xiao Hua naturally couldn't greet them when others were so courteous. He hurriedly flew down from the Pegasus and stood in front of the soaring cloud side hall's door before bowing to return the greeting. Xiao Hua didn't activate his transcendence golden body, which was the figure of an ordinary human. He stood there respectfully, but the second elder of the Dragon Island, the two great sages of the Great Sage Hall, and the East Sea Dragon Palace Lord didn't dare to disrespect him. The four demons hurriedly used their techniques and transformed into human form. They smiled and said, "Dragon Master Xiao, you're too polite." Master Xiao Lei. Right after Xiao Hua finished greeting the dragons and demons, Immortal Emperor Go Qin didn't miss the opportunity to appear. He smiled and said, "After hearing Master Xiao Lei's name, the second elder of Dragon Island was even more anxious than me. He actually came to greet you before me. I really don't know who the real host is. Your Majesty is wrong." When Xiao Hua saw that Immortal Emperor Gaochen had personally come out, he understood that Immortal Emperor Gaochen was attracted by the title of Fortune Gate's third master. Therefore, he smiled and bowed respectfully. "This humble servant is a human, and is also the lightning master of the Immortal Palace. This humble servant can be considered half a host, so..." At this point, Xiao Hua's heart skipped a beat. He realized that his words were ambiguous and wanted to think of an explanation. After Immortal Emperor Go Qin, Dongfang Qiong-hao also smiled and said, "Master Xiao Lei is also wrong. If we're talking about half a host, this old man can barely be considered half a host. You can only be considered half a host." Hee. Xiao Hua was secretly happy. Dongfang Qiong-hao's words made Immortal Emperor Go Qin even more sleepless, so he didn't say anything else. He just casually replied, "That's right, that's right. This Xiao has always been afraid of making a fool of himself in this kind of situation. I only said one sentence and immortal friend Dongfang exposed me." Dongfang Qiong-hao smiled and said, "That's even better." At the Jade Lake banquet, Empress Dowager Celestial Palace's immortal peaches and immortal palace's wine are plentiful. Master Xiao can punish himself. Troublesome. Xiao Hua patted his forehead in distress. This Xiao is most afraid of wine. If you want to enter the school of the Emperor Star, how can you not have a good alcohol tolerance? The golden-winged Great Ping laughed and said, Come, let's have a drinking competition with this sage." The group of venerable realm experts laughed and invited Immortal Emperor Go Qin to go first. Xiao Hua, Thunderbolt Immortal, and the heavenly being stood in the middle. The Dragon Island's second elder and the others followed behind and entered the Lingyun side hall. Tai-Bai Jinxing looked at the Grand Mist Ancestor in the distance and sneered. He naturally didn't dare to enter the Lingyun side hall through the main door. After the main door was closed, he flew through the side door. As for when he could deliver the Grand Mist Ancestor's Jade Eye and report the Grand Mist Ancestor's intention, it depended on his mood. Damn it! The Grand Mist Ancestor naturally saw all of this, and his anger was unprecedentedly strong. In his heart, he knew that the other forces might not put the Fortune Gate in their eyes. However, the 3 continents and the 4 seas needed a force that could benefit from both sides to keep each other in check. If Xiao Hua's rise wasn't too lucky, if Xiao Hua's fortune gate wasn't 100 years earlier than his sky-bearing palace, all the glory in front of him would belong to him and not Xiao Hua. Lord Sect Master. Daoist Rider Crane was very quick-witted. Seeing the Grand Mist Ancestor's uncertain expression, he hurriedly whispered, according to this subordinate's knowledge, no matter how many times the Jade Lake gathering has been held, it seems there has never been such a reception. The Great Sage Hall, Dragon Island, and Immortal Palace have given Xiao Hua too much glory. In this subordinate's opinion, the peak of prosperity is bound to decline. I'm afraid there are many hidden dangers behind this glory. Daoist Rider Crane's Lord Sect Master made the Grand Mist Ancestor's heart itch. He smiled and nodded. Your opinion is exactly what I think. Xiao Hua is just a Dao Gates child. How would he know how to strategize? Didn't you see that he actually destroyed his own blood steel? Isn't this giving others a reason to criticize him? A person who goes back on his words. It's only because of the current situation of the 3 continents that he can be so arrogant. The times make heroes, in terms of luck. I'm still half a step behind Xiao Hua. Lord Sect Master's luck is about the same. Daoist Rider Crane laughed. At this time, being praised by everyone is like being roasted on a fire. When it's time to make the real arrangements, only then will the cultivation base be tested. In this subordinate's opinion, Lord Sect Master's magic power is divine and can control yin and yang. Lord Sect Master is the one with the real good luck. Humph, good luck is just a facade. The Grand Mist Ancestor coldly snorted. His gaze swept over the tightly shut door of the soaring cloud side hall, and he transmitted, all kinds of luck are like paper and silk in front of a plan. Before everything is revealed, everything is like the moon in the water. In the end, Xiao Hua will know that everything he did is just to pave the way for me. Everything he has is mine. This subordinate has this confidence. Daoist Rider Crane's eyes narrowed. He also looked at the soaring cloud side hall and replied, only your majesty is the master of this palace. Only your majesty is qualified to be the Dao Gates. Lord Sect Master. Not to mention that the Grand Mist Ancestor and Daoist Rider Crane were flattering each other in front of the soaring cloud side hall. On the other side of the soaring cloud side hall, there was a similar door. Moreover, this door was also vermilion red. However, this door was decorated with 36 golden stars. This door was also tightly shut. Moreover, there was no plaque on it. Hundreds of armored female generals stood guard in front of the door. Boom! There was a roar high in the sky, and a 5-colored spot of light was born in the starry sky. The spot of light shook the void and streaked across the sky. Behind the spot of light, clouds like a bridge of clouds surged out from the vibrating space and covered the horizon. The female generals guarding the door tensed up. Among them, 10 of them moved and landed on the bridge of clouds. The leader's eyes flashed with a clear light as she looked at the other side of the bridge of clouds. In less than the time it took to brew a cup of tea, dozens of female officials dressed in palace attire flew over with 2 imperial canopies. At this time, the 2 imperial canopies were not covered by the multicolored light, revealing the 2 charming princesses inside. 2 of the princesses looked very similar, but their expressions and temperaments were completely different. One had a cold expression with bright eyes that emitted a murderous aura. The female officials near the canopy lowered their heads and didn't dare to come closer. Wasn't this the 5th princess of the immortal emperor, Qingqing? The other one had a sorrowful expression and looked around with a pitiful expression. This was the 6th princess of the bright jade palace, Miao Miao. At this time, there was a faint blue and white mark on her forehead. This mark was in the shape of a thunderbolt with faint flashes of lightning inside. Whenever lightning flashed, the princess would frown. She couldn't help but cover her chest. Then, strands of five-colored light rushed out from her chest. This five-colored light traveled up her jade-white neck to her forehead and entered the blue and white mark. Your Highness. The one guarding the canopy was naturally Yu Xiaojing. She saw the princess's frown and quickly asked, Your Highness. If you can't hold on, how about you let Princess Miao Miao see the Empress and ask for leave on her behalf? We'll return to the Jasper Flower Palace right now. We're already in front of the Lingyun Side Palace. How can we return? Princess Qingqing snorted and said, Plus, this princess didn't have time to ask for His Majesty's forgiveness after the battle at Chaomuya. This gathering is a good opportunity. If this princess doesn't come and His Majesty asks, won't this princess be punished? This servant knows. Yu Xiaojing smiled bitterly, but this servant is worried about Your Highness' injuries. There's no need for that. Princess Qingqing waved her hand in annoyance, stopping Yu Xiaojing from speaking. A rare look of confusion appeared in her eyes. She wasn't looking at Yu Xiaojing or Princess Miao Miao. Instead, she was looking at the boundless stars. Your Highness. Yu Xiaojing glanced at Princess Miao Miao and whispered to Princess Qingqing, You haven't seen many messages yet. This servant thinks you should take a look before entering the Lingyun Side Palace. We'll see. Princess Qingqing frowned again. Her injuries were clearly acting up again. She said impatiently, Nothing is more important than asking for His Majesty's forgiveness right now. Yes, Your Highness. Yu Xiaojing opened her mouth but stopped when she saw Princess Qingqing's pain. Big sister. Princess Miao Miao's gentle voice rang out when she saw Princess Qingqing in such a state. I heard you went to Prime Purity Palace after returning from Dawn and Dawn. Why haven't you recovered yet? Princess Qingqing's eyes flashed with shame and anger. The one who injured me is a Daoist Grand Ascension Stage cultivator. He seems to be even more powerful than the master of the Shangqing Palace. The master's medicine can only treat the symptoms, not the root of the problem. If I want to recover, I'll have to rely on my own cultivation. A Daoist Mahayana, he. How could he ignore his status and bully the weak? Princess Miao Miao was shocked and patted her chest, worried for Princess Qingqing. Thank goodness you're lucky. But how long will it take for you to recover? I'm afraid it won't be for at least 1,000 years. Princess Qingqing replied through gritted teeth. Alas, elder sister. Princess Miao Miao turned her head and looked to the left of the imperial canopy. She waved her hand to signal those female officials to stay away. Then, she said in a low voice, Although I don't understand these fights and I don't like to compete, I still occasionally hear some rumors. What rumor? Princess Qingqing withdrew her thoughts and asked indifferently. Princess Miao Miao hesitated. Please don't be angry if I tell you. Tell me, I won't be angry. Princess Qingqing's face was a bit cold. It seemed she already knew what Princess Miao Miao wanted to say. Princess Miao Miao sighed, but she still said, I heard. You and Xin have some misunderstandings. You seem to have accidentally injured her back then. Since you're talking about Daoist Mahayana, you must be talking about Daoist Master Xiaohua, right? With his strength, how could he only injure you? Presumably, this move of his was also to avenge Xian, right? You injured Xin and he injured you. We're even now, don't take it to heart. Princess Qingqing knew Princess Miao Miao didn't like this kind of news. It was already good that she knew something. She shook her head. It's not Xiaohua, it's another cultivator. Another cultivator. Could it be the Grand Mist Ancestor? Princess Miao Miao was shocked. The Grand Mist Ancestor's cultivation is nothing. He's not even worthy of carrying his shoes. Princess Qingqing said casually, but there was a hint of arrogance in her words. She was shocked and hurriedly looked at Princess Miao Miao. Princess Miao Miao was also shocked and turned to look at Princess Qingqing. Their gazes met and they turned back at the same time as if they were electrocuted. It was absolutely strange. After a few breaths of silence, the two of them spoke at the same time. Sister, who is that person? Miao Miao, is there any important news recently? Princess Miao Miao didn't say anything. She lowered her head slightly and smiled faintly. Princess Qingqing's cheeks were burning and her eyes were a little messy. Sister. Princess Miao Miao stopped smiling and said softly, I never ask about the Immortal Palace or the hidden Immortal Continent. How would I know any important news? Forget it if you don't know. Princess Qingqing said perfunctorily. She looked at the Lingyun Side Palace and changed the topic. Sister, I remember that it's only been a few days since the Jade Lake Gathering. Why is the Jade Lake Gathering being held again? Who are they inviting? Is it the new Confucian sage? If you don't know, then I don't know either. Princess Miao Miao smiled. But it's the Empress' imperial decree. We'll go. No. Princess Qingqing became nervous as her imagination ran wild. I have to see what's going on first. Otherwise, I'll be caught off guard. Yes, Your Highness. Yu Xiaojing naturally stayed away from the canopy and hid her ears in her heart. Seeing Princess Qingqing waving at her, she hurriedly flew over. Quick, show me the latest message, Jade Eye. Princess Qingqing was anxious. Lightning flashed between her eyebrows again. She couldn't help but hold her heart again. Yu Xiaojing felt sorry for her, but she didn't dare to delay. She took out a dozen jade eyes and handed them over. Are you Princess Qingqing and Princess Miao Miao in front? The female general had already flown over and asked. Yes, it is our princess. Yu Xiaojing and a female official from the Bright Jade Palace responded and flew over. The Empress has decreed that the two princesses are to go to the Jade Lake immediately. The female general transmitted her voice. Yu Xiaojing smiled. Generals, please lead the way. This way please. The female general didn't dare to delay. She led the cloud bridge to the side door. Seeing that they were about to reach the side door, Princess Qingqing exclaimed from inside the canopy, how is this possible? The four noble houses actually. That damned servant, Gu Xianyun. Yu Xiaojing hurriedly flew back and whispered in panic, Your Highness, please don't be angry. Xianyun has already died in front of the Sunset Cliff. It's all this servant's fault for not reporting such an important matter. Phew. Princess Qingqing was naturally anxious as well. She cursed Gu Xianyun in anger when she didn't know about such an important matter. Seeing Yu Xiaojing so flustered, she couldn't help but feel annoyed. She sighed and said, Fine. It's not your fault. I didn't return to the Jasper Flower Palace and received the Empress' decree as soon as I returned. At this moment, a rumbling sound came from the night sky not far away. Hundreds of pillars of Aoran Chi descended from the starry sky. Within the pillars of Aoran Chi, clouds poured down like a waterfall. When the Aoran Chi fell into the clouds, it immediately emitted a brilliant light. What was special was that within the clouds, a flying phoenix palanquin flew over. Under the cover of the clouds, it looked like a phoenix that ruled over the world. An overwhelming majestic aura instantly covered the surrounding space. On the left side of the flying phoenix palanquin, the silhouettes of the dozens of women in palace robes became somewhat blurry. Is that the Empress flying phoenix palanquin? Princess Qingqing and Princess Miao Miao were surprised. Is the Empress not in the Jade Lake? The Empress is in the Jade Lake. The female general at the front replied, "The Empress' decree flew in from outer space and the Empress sent the flying phoenix palanquin to receive it. I'm afraid it's an honored guest invited by the Empress." Oh. Princess Qingqing was surprised. She rolled her eyes and smiled. How many people in the world are worthy of the Empress sending the flying phoenix palanquin? Could it be the concubines of the 4 great clans? However, the 4 great clans just offended the immortal palace. Their concubines are close to the Empress, but they won't come to the Jade Lake. If it's not the 4 great clans, then it's the concubines of Gongshu, Duanmu, Kong, and Meng. Princess Miao Miao was also confused. But they don't seem to be qualified to sit in the flying phoenix palanquin. That's strange. Princess Qingqing shook her head and said, "I can't think of anyone who can sit in the flying phoenix palanquin. Maybe it's the Dragon Queen of the Dragon Palace of the 4 Seas." Princess Miao Miao asked again. "The Dragon Empress of the Dragon Palace of the 4 Seas has never come to the Immortal Palace." Princess Qingqing shook her head and said, "Moreover, the dragon race is different from us humans. Their Dragon Empress is just a title. It's far from the status of the concubines of the 100 schools of thought. Forget it, sister. We don't need to guess." Princess Miao Miao said with a smile, "We have to kneel when the flying phoenix palanquin appears. Won't we know when the honored guest comes out?" "Humph. Kneel." Princess Qingqing's eyes flashed with pride. "One day, I will sit in the flying phoenix palanquin and make that slut kneel." Sigh. Princess Qingqing's voice wasn't loud, but Princess Miao Miao heard it clearly. She naturally knew who the slut was. She could only sigh and walk out of the imperial canopy. She walked to the side of the cloud bridge with Princess Qingqing and prepared to welcome the flying phoenix palanquin. The clouds were like a bridge. The palanquin above the clouds was like a phoenix that spread its wings and landed in front of the palace gate. Princess Qingqing and Princess Miao Miao had already flown to the palace gate from the side door when the palanquin approached. When the clouds converged, the flying phoenix palanquin stopped in midair. The clouds turned into a huge illusion of a phoenix and rushed through the red door. Behind the illusion, a woman in palace attire walked out of the palanquin. Princess Qingqing, Princess Miao Miao, and many other female officials hurriedly knelt on the ground and shouted, "We respectfully welcome your majesty." As the phoenix illusion landed on the crimson door, the 36 stars flashed at the same time. Boom boom. The crimson door next to everyone slowly opened. The phoenix illusion landed inside the door and set off a complete brilliance. Many female officials flew out from the radiance and knelt on the ground while shouting, "We respectfully welcome your majesty." "Oh, sister, get up, get up." Just as Princess Qingqing and Princess Miao Miao knelt on the ground and didn't dare to raise their heads, a familiar voice rang in their ears. "Little sister doesn't deserve such great respect." "Ah. Xian Xian." When Princess Qingqing heard this, it was as though she had been struck by lightning. She looked up in shock and disbelief at the new princess who was blushing bashfully. She even looked at Bai and who was beside the new princess and exclaimed, "You! When did you escape?" Then, before Xian could speak, Princess Qingqing jumped up from the ground and scolded, Xian, what right do you have to sit in this flying phoenix palanquin? You've overstepped the etiquette and called yourself your majesty. Do you know that you violated the immortal law? I'm going to see his majesty today to present a Qingqing. Just as Princess Qingqing was feeling embarrassed and angry, a kind voice came from inside the hall. Your younger sister has just escaped and returned to the Lingyun side hall. Why are you picking on her again? Don't you think you're being picky? Greetings, Celestial Empress. Princess Qingqing immediately bowed respectfully in front of the Lingyun side palace, greeting the celestial empress with the etiquette of a ruler and her subject. Get up. East Sea Empress looked at her competitive daughter and sighed. She flicked her sleeves and said, "This isn't Lingyun side palace or Fragrance side palace. It's enough for you to call me mother. The etiquette of Confucian cultivators precedes the kinship of the immortal palace. Your son doesn't dare to overstep the bounds." Princess Qingqing naturally wouldn't let Princess Axian off. She said, "It's precisely because your majesty dotes on Axian that she oversteps the bounds again and again. I hope your majesty will think twice in the future." How am I overstepping the bounds? East Sea Empress looked at Princess Qingqing with amusement and anger. She had called Princess Qingqing and Princess Miao Miao over today because Princess Miao Miao had a good relationship with Princess Qingqing and Princess Axian. She wanted to use the Jasper Lake meeting to ease the tension between the two princesses. But who would have thought that Princess Qingqing and Princess Miao Miao would arrive at the same time as the new princess's flying phoenix sedan? Princess Qingqing would kneel to the new princess in the flying phoenix sedan. Princess Qingqing was naturally furious. She seemed to have overreached herself. Although the ninth princess is His Majesty's descendant and has a noble status, Princess Qingqing seemed to have thought of something and her expression changed. She quickly shut her mouth. But a moment later, she gritted her teeth and said, "She hasn't made any outstanding achievements. With her unmarried status, how can she sit in this flying phoenix sedan chair?" Qingqing. East Sea Empress' expression didn't change. She asked thoughtfully, "These days? You weren't in the Jasper Flower Palace, right?" "Yes, Your Majesty." Princess Qingqing replied, "Your son was injured by the Fortune Gate's lightning reverend on the Sunset Cliff. I've been recuperating in the High Purity Palace. And, if that's the case, Your Majesty will pardon you." East Sea Empress nodded and turned to a female official. "Xiuqiao, read His Majesty's decree to Princess Qingqing." "Yes, Your Majesty." The female official didn't dare to delay. She hurriedly got up and returned to the palace. A moment later, she flew out again with a decree in her hand. After the decree was unfurled, everyone except East Sea Empress knelt down and listened to the female official read it word by word. "By the will of the heavens, the ancestors of the Confucian cultivators rejoice. Today, with the help of the ninth princess, I obtained the 5 energies unification technique from the master of the literary stream palace and found the true essence of my Confucian cultivation. My hidden immortal will return to the orthodox Confucian cultivation and will definitely shine for generations to come. This is one of the ninth princess' great achievements. After the sutra seeking of extreme bliss, I encountered danger in the longevity town. The ninth princess used the mystic origin water control flag to break the connate 4 directions formation and saved me from danger. This is another of the ninth princess' great achievements. When the hidden immortal died and the 9 provinces formation collapsed, the ninth princess fearlessly took the risk and brought my 9 provinces cauldron formation to the Tao Gate. This is the third of the ninth princess' great achievements. The ninth princess's 3 great merits are the auspicious purple clouds, the Eastern Ascension Immortal Palace, and her name in the annals of history. Therefore, this emperor hereby grants the ninth princess the title of Purple Clouds, and she will enjoy the first class of imperial concubines. PFFF. Before the female official could finish reading Immortal Emperor Go Chen's decree, Princess Qingqing spat out a mouthful of blood and collapsed in front of the Lingyun side palace. "Sister." No one dared to move. Princess Axian hastily got up and helped Princess Qingqing up. "You. Why did you do this? Get out of my way." Princess Qingqing's face was pale, but she still waved her hand and slapped Princess Qingqing's hand away. "You only obtained some opportunities. What's there to be arrogant about? Sigh. Princess Axian sighed. She looked at Princess Qingqing and whispered, I've fought with you for thousands of years. Now that I look back, I find it laughable. From now on, the immortal palace is yours. I'll hand it over to you. Humph. Princess Qingqing sneered. Don't try to fool me with these words. Don't think I don't know what you're thinking. Let me tell you, you've only taken a few more steps. The one who has the last laugh is the true winner. Sister. Princess Axian naturally wasn't afraid of Princess Qingqing. She calmly replied, believe it or not. Only when you meet the things and people that you should meet will you realize that. The things that you worked so hard for before are really just smoke. Qingqing. The East Sea Empress looked at Princess Qingqing with heartache. She whispered, listen to His Majesty's decree first. Princess Qingqing gritted her teeth and slapped Princess Axian's hand away again. She struggled to get up and kneeled. Ancestor, Fortune Gate's Xiao Hua is a handsome human. He created the Fortune Gate and established the Xiao World Empire. He is our immortal palace's lightning master. He fought against the 4 great clans at Dawn and Dusk Cliff. He worked together with me to resist the 4 great clans at Longevity Town. His sincerity towards the 9th princess was felt by the heavens and broke the 9th princess Heaven's punishment prison crystal. I cannot go back on my words. Today, I announce to the world that I agree to Xiao Hua's marriage proposal. Once Xiao Hua sets up the 9 provinces grand formation for our immortal palace, he can marry the 9th princess. Thus, the East Sea Empress smiled as she looked at Princess Qingqing. She knew that Princess Qingqing had always viewed the new princess as a strong rival. Now that the new princess had been given a title, she would be leaving the immortal palace. Now that she was going to marry Xiao Hua, the hatred between Princess Qingqing and the new princess would naturally disappear. Perhaps they would be able to bury the hatchet. Unfortunately, the East Sea Empress was still wrong. Princess Qingqing forced herself to listen, but when she heard the word wedding, her expression changed drastically. Pfff. Another mouthful of blood mixed with lightning gushed out of her mouth. Princess Qingqing had completely fainted in front of the Lingyun side palace. Princess Axian looked at Princess Qingqing with pity. However, she didn't go forward. She naturally treated Princess Qingqing as her elder sister and was willing to use her family to awaken her coldness. However, Princess Qingqing had already rejected her good intentions. How could Princess Axian help her? Send the 5th princess to Aijia's palace to rest. Call the medicine master to diagnose her. The East Sea Empress looked at the arrogant Princess Qingqing with heartache. She hurriedly ordered the female officials beside her. The female officials were a bit flustered. However, they quickly regained their composure. Some of them carried Princess Qingqing. They didn't dare to be rude and still entered through the side door. Some of them hurriedly went to pass the message. Of course, even more female officials surrounded the East Sea Empress and stood guard in front of the palace door. The East Sea Empress saw that the situation had stabilized. She sighed in her heart and forced a smile on her face. She said to Princess Axian, after you receive the edict today, Aijia can no longer call you Axian outside. As she spoke, the usually strong East Sea Empress suddenly felt sour in her heart. She actually had tears in her eyes. When Princess Axian saw the East Sea Empress smile, she saw the hypocrisy hidden behind it. Like Princess Qingqing, she also saw the immortal emperor's edict clearly. It wasn't to reward Axian, but to rope in Xiao Hua. Princess Axian even had some doubts in her heart. If she didn't have the same heart as Xiao Hua, even if Xiao Hua proposed to marry any of the immortal emperor's princesses, the names in the edict would be changed at will. However, seeing the tears in her mother's eyes, Xian's heart immediately softened. She was already so burdened facing Princess Qingqing in the immortal palace. What immortal Emperor Gaochen and the East Sea Empress had to face were the 4 great clans, the 100 schools of thought, and even the demon race and the Buddhist sect. They would definitely rack their brains and judge others by their own standards. Xian couldn't blame Her Majesty too much for scheming against Xiao Hua. Especially since these tears were tears of farewell. They were tears of reluctance. These tears made Xian think of many things. Xian couldn't help but cry as well. She fell into the East Sea Empress' arms. Cough cough. Princess Xian only lost her composure for a moment. The East Sea Empress came back to her senses. She gently coughed a few times and helped Xian up. She smiled and said, "Princess Xixia, quickly receive the edict. Once we're done with the state affairs and enter the Lingyun side palace, Aijia will talk to you about family matters." Yes. As Xian stood up, she returned to normal and nodded with a smile. Also, the East Sea Empress looked at Bai and kneeling beside Xixia and said, "Aijia knows that you have worked hard and contributed greatly. I have also asked His Majesty for a decree for you. I hope you will be satisfied." Bai was shocked. She hurriedly kowtowed and said, "This servant doesn't dare to be greedy. This is all new. Princess Xixia's good fortune." The East Sea Empress didn't say much. Another female official beside her took out an immortal emperor's decree and recited it. This decree naturally didn't reward Princess Xixia. It simply pointed out that Bai had worked hard and contributed greatly. She was conferred the title of 4th-rank concubine and married to Fu Jiwen. In addition, the Fu clan of the peaceful mountain country was also conferred the title of 5th-rank aristocratic family. Of course, the Fu clan's status as a 5th-rank aristocratic family couldn't match Bai An's 4th-rank concubine etiquette. This also showed that the immortal emperor was fair in his rewards and punishments. "This servant thanks the Empress and Your Majesty for your grace." Bai was so excited that her face turned red. She kowtowed and thanked the Empress with all her might. This was the etiquette of a 4th-rank concubine. How many women in the world could receive such an honor? Moreover, Bai had always been traumatized by her affair with Fu Jiwen. Now that the immortal emperor had conferred her marriage to the world, the gloom in her heart had long dissipated. Not to mention, because Bai had married into the Fu clan had also been promoted to a 5th-rank aristocratic family. This was something that the tiny Fu clan couldn't even dream of. Bai was almost certain that once this decree was issued, the Fu clan would definitely worship her like a real concubine. Of course, while Bai was thanking the Empress, she also understood that this decree wasn't just about informing Xiao Hua and stopping the 4 great aristocratic families. It was also about her marrying Fu Jiwen, the famous Confucian cultivator of the Fortune Gate, Fu Jiwen. Yu Xiaojing and the other female officials of the Jasper Flower Palace didn't dare to enter the Lingyun side hall without the East Sea Empress order. At this time, they were also kneeling at the side. When they and the female officials of the Jade Brightness Palace heard about Bai An's grace, they couldn't help but feel envious. There were countless female officials in the Immortal Palace. Although Bai wasn't unprecedented, there probably wouldn't be anyone like her in the past 10,000 years. You all have seen it clearly. The East Sea Empress glanced at Yu Xiaojing and the others and said coldly, "The Emperor Star Palace is Bai and is your role model. You all should assist your princess well. Don't cause any trouble. I hope that there will be more decrees like this from my hands in the future." "Yes, this servant understands." The female officials didn't dare to be disrespectful and hurriedly nodded in agreement. You all can enter from the side door. The East Sea Empress nodded and ordered, Meow Meow, I and Princess Xia will wait for you at the Azure Sky Pavilion. Yes, Empress. After Princess Meow Meow and the others knelt, they watched as the East Sea Empress held Princess Xia's hand and accompanied her into the palace. Then, they followed the other female officials into the side door. After entering the palace, they saw that it wasn't an ordinary palace. Instead, it was an expanse of lakes and mountains. What greeted them was a vast expanse of blue waves. The blue waves were like a mirror, reflecting all the strange scenes in the heavens above. When they looked at the heavens above, they saw that it wasn't a blue sky and white clouds. Instead, layers of 9-colored clouds formed a jade necklace, hanging above everyone's heads like lanterns and streamers. As if a gust of wind had blown past, the jade necklace swayed, and the entire sky swayed. Amidst the layers of jade necklace, even more multicolored clouds condensed into auspicious shapes of dragons and phoenixes. When these auspicious shapes fell into the blue waves surged like waves. Pillars of Aeoran chi that pierced through the heavens and the earth rose like steam, surging between the heavens and the earth. It was somewhat similar to the Buddhist light of the Buddhist sect. Countless images of mountains and rivers flashed out from these pillars of Aeoran chi. The sounds of war, the sounds of men plowing and women weaving, all appeared before everyone's eyes. However, the East Sea Empress and the others didn't pay attention to these beautiful scenes. Instead, they stepped into the auspicious shapes and landed on the blue waves. Clouds immediately surged out from the blue waves, supporting the East Sea Empress and Princess Xia. They transformed into rainbows that fell into the depths of the blue waves. Wherever the rainbows passed, the jade necklace seemed to be blown by the wind, splitting into two. In just a moment, as the jade necklace swayed, a blue flower appeared in the air. This flower was sparkling and translucent, overflowing with precious light. Before it even flew close, a fragrance that seeped into one's heart followed everyone's gaze, emerging from their noses and mouths. When the fragrance filled the air, the space near the flower lit up with 9 colors. These 9 colors pushed the jade necklace apart, and countless lines and contours appeared between the gaps. When the East Sea Empress flew to the front of the lines, these lines quickly combined, and a jade-colored huading appeared before everyone's eyes. When the huading appeared, a rainbow bridge stretched out from the huading and caught the clouds beneath everyone's feet. When the rainbow bridge shrank, everyone's figures gradually disappeared before they could even touch the huading. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.